Hello, everyone.
We're back
We
in
are
action.
back. We're
Right
back with a
time
Mac
for
attack right after in the new year, the first
yes, we
first
made it
reading
to
of the new year.
2025.
We made it. Some people didn't, but we did.
RIP.
R.I.P. R.I.P. The revelers of Bourbon Street and that
One man in Las
one
Vegas
guy in a Cybertruck who seems like he probably couldn't have done it because he got shot in the
because
head
he was dead.
before before the truck exploded. Um, yeah. So, while Hudson gets the today's reading, our lesson plan set up on
Oh,
the
right.
screen,
Oh, yeah,
um,
Jimmy Carter finally dead.
Jimmy Carter finally dead. A guy who was not so great at secret ops or deal making, unfortunately for him
America's second
and us.
favorite peanut innovator dead.
Who's the first one?
George Washington Carver, of course.
I feel like he is a psyop. Like there's no
No,
evidence
no,
George Washington
he
Carver
definitely
existed.
is. No, he existed, but, like, in the same way that, like, there was a guy who invented an elevator, so black people say, "Oh, black people invented the elevator." I think that's what he did with peanuts. He's like,
Yeah.
I invented a peanut butter shampoo." It's like, "Yeah, but why? Why would you do that?"
So a few things before we get started on this famous uh terrorist attack carried out by an army veteran driving a rented vehicle, having previously served at Fort Bragg. Uh,
If I had a nickel for every time that happened, I'd have 15 cents at least.
yeah, which is more than you would expect on first blush. But we would be remiss to mention that Shamalama Ding Dong didn't do Jamal and Mr. Michael I don't even know,
I think
Livesey. Yeah.
Lindsberg or Berg or something.
Um yeah, had all of those things in common with Timothy McVeigh, which
Gabe,
is
Gabe, don't put that on us. I swear, if he was a listener,
oh god. Oh god. Yeah,
we have to shut it down.
shut it down. Um Yeah, but it is weird. It is weird that there's this sort of pattern. And actually, I think I may be making this up. I may just be filling it in. Um, but the F-150 Lightning that was used in the New Orleans attack also supposedly had some kind of explosive in it that
Wait,
did not detonate.
it was also an electric truck.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Also
That's
rented from Toro. So if
uh,
you have ever served at Fort Bragg, you probably should not be allowed to rent a truck. I'm just throwing it out there. It seems like it's happened 3 times. Just you know, just don't let them rent trucks.
it'd be really funny if like a Toro was started by like a former Ryder executive. Like, what if you could rent a truck but also a car?
That's right. That's
Hey,
right.
Ham, I don't appreciate bringing in the Irish American story into this.
Was was um was the perfect and the wicked a call to action? Is that is that was this a
No, just because half the novel takes place on Bourbon Street and somebody gets hit by a truck doesn't mean that this was any way a planned op.
and the chapter is titled "This is how you should do it."
If I were
If
to do something this
if
heinous,
I
if
if
I did it,
if I an American man born in Texas with a traditional Texas name, uh,
oh, of course, my family, we carved our name in the Plymouth Rock. It just took a while.
right, because you hadn't invented anything more than stone tools. Um, all right. Well, so this is the one where Timmy really starts to come into his own as a figure of questionable background. And so, we might wonder if these other fellows had any other sort of suspicious connections with the military industrial complex and military intelligence groups. They absolutely did.
Yep, yep. Up until now, it was all fun and games and a little lighthearted racism here and there. But this is where Timmy starts to get a dark side.
Yep, that's
I
right.
do. I do want to say I mentioned this to you in the DMs, but I thought it was a good enough line that I wanted to say it on the air. That Andreas Strassmeyer was an H-1B candidate doing the jobs that Americans wouldn't.
Okay, all right. Well, maybe there is a place for the program. Uh, hey, Ziria, is that Nikki Nike goddess of victory? What Chinese gun girl gachapon is that?
My goodness, I have no idea what any of that means.
You don't know what any of that means?
No, no,
Uh,
I know what Nike is. It's
yeah,
or
a
was
shoe
is.
company, right?
Yeah, oh yeah, no, it's that
I've seen
thing
that
that
movie. Phil
those
Knight.
scholars, they always steal them.
Um, I did. I'll admit that I have played my fair share of gachapon games as a true weeb, and a gambler. But I do know when to fold them, and I stopped playing that shit. All right, so did we end at Washed Up Hero Rent a Cop, or did we get to the political stressors of Timothy McVeigh?
I believe that we are on Washed Up Rent-A-Cop. I think we finished the section. No, I don't know. Let's ask the chat who knows these things better than I.
Well, let's not do that because chat's on a delay. So that's just dead. That's a recipe for dead air, my friend.
Da, da, da. Let's see.
All right, Gabe. I don't know how to tell you this, but
Yeah, I think we're
knowing
on
what
here.
Kesha was like in 2011, right? Is there's just no way to shake that. Like,
Yeah, no.
there will always be a place for party sluts.
Yes, I was a fan of $sign Ha.
Kadallerha.
Yep.
I mean, I like it when she got I like it when she got SA'd and then got thick and came out with that video for praying where it's like really heartfelt, but she's like poured into that cat suit.
Yep.
The
No,
bright
I really
off.
liked the part where she didn't get any money. Like she had all
Yeah.
her money taken from her. I like
And
that
now
part.
she's doing voice acting roles for Vivian Mandrano.
I don't know
Uh
who that is, but it sounds horrible.
the Has Been Hotel, Hell of a Boss, Edge Lord trainee cartoons on YouTube, and A24. That was the career path. Goes from YouTube to A24 immediately.
That's good. I'm so happy for that person. You know, some of us are slaving away writing terrific novels.
Terrific
And
terrorist attack plans like The Perfect and the Wicked.
yes, you too can find out what not to do by reading my book. Somebody's
Ah,
gonna read it and
Gabe, she is trashy. That is the fucking point.
yes, yeah, no,
That is why we like Kesha. That's why we stand Mickey McVeigh. You
yeah, no,
know?
you're not bringing her home to mom.
No. Well, especially not Mickey because she is mom. Okay, let's get started. Part 2, Washed Up War Hero Rent-A-Cop. Introduction. In January 1992, Timothy McVeigh returned to his hometown of Pendleton, New York, feeling, according to Stickney, like a failure who had been used as a pawn in George Bush's bullshit Gulf War. In Ham's evaluation,
Many such cases.
right. The period following. Do you feel that way, Hudson? Do you ever feel that way?
No, I never deployed because you know,
Oh, because you had flat feet.
I actually do.
Really?
Yeah, I do have flat feet,
Just a
but they give
couple.
you insoles now. It's not a big.
Oh, you can't get away from it. Just
Yeah,
having
no,
flat feet.
yeah, they were just like, oh, we're just gonna put this stuff in your boots and you'll be fine.
Damn it.
Yeah.
All right. In Ham's evaluation, the period following his return home marked the next crucial stage of post-traumatic stress disorder, the atrophy of his mind and body. For
Damn
her,
it, Gabe. Damn it,
Oh,
Gabe.
yeah, we're putting that up. Doesn't Mickey's Moose Hangers make any appearance again? Probably not.
No.
Probably not. Ryan Gosling on actually was the first chat of the night. First for Mickey's.
No. We have much earlier.
What?
Oh wait, yes. Oh,
No,
never
that
mind.
was it.
That was Ryan Gosling on. Oh,
Yes,
thank
it
you.
was. It was. I read it, sir.
I see.
Comma, read it, a memoir
You
of a
are
full
Reddit.
poster. Yeah. Over the next 13 months, it would drive him into a deep depression. For Timothy McVeigh, the American dream was dead, buried in the sands of the Persian Gulf. When he decided to leave buried in the sands of the Persian Gulf along with the Iraqi dream and the Iraqis.
Also, the Persian Gulf is a body of water. Does she mean Iraq?
Buried cable toes lengths from shore in the rough sands of the sea where the tides ebb and flow twice in 24 hours. I don't know what that means. Do not research. When he decided to leave the army, McVeigh incorrectly assumed his military training and status of war hero would expand his opportunities for well-paying, secure employment in the civilian world. Like many returning Gulf War veterans, he faced record low national employment rates and hiring freezes. Reflective of the country's overall lackluster economy, the Buffalo Niagara region was experiencing high unemployment rates, 6.9%, nice, in November 1991, and declining property values. Further, analysts, the line was not going up for Tim. The line was not
beautiful,
going up.
Helper. What was that, Shel Silverstein?
Oh, my Angelou. Further, I have no idea why you said that.
You had that one little line, and I didn't want to interrupt. Exactly.
Further, analysts anticipated the loss of 1.3 million defense industry jobs nationwide, a circumstance that led to calls for the grafting of defense jobs onto a new civilian economy. Only by the grace of his current Department of Defense security clearance status and New York State concealed pistol permit did McVeigh obtain a job, picking up where he had left off, working for $5 an hour as an armed security guard. This time for Burns International Security.
Wait, you're telling me that thank goodness for his advanced training and his license, he got to make $5 an hour?
Absolutely. Well, that was $5. Oh, you know what? We did read this because $5 an hour in 1993, it turns out it's like $18 or something.
$18 in today money.
Yeah. I think we did read this.
Oh,
should
probably
I
political
stressors. Jump ahead? Yeah. Okay. All right. Anyway, so essentially, he got a shitty wage slave job as a security guard, and didn't like interacting with the public, so they just put him on because he was
zoo duty.
Yeah, they basically
he was guarding Harambe.
He was if Timothy McVeigh had survived to be an old grizzled security guard, Harambe would never have died.
No, but if Timothy McVeigh was alive if Timothy McVeigh had never done what he'd done, he would have done it anyway because
he would have been the one to shoot Harambe. He was just like fated to be a world historic figure.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
Yeah. The political I want the alternative universe where Timothy McVeigh keeps attempting to not do a terrorism or do something that will dramatically adversely affect the world.
It's like John dies at the end, but he keeps blowing up buildings.
It's like what is it? Final Destination, except it's doing a terrorist act. He has to keep doing it, and every time he fucks up, he has to just restart and avoid it in the future. That'd be great.
Edge of Tomorrow.
Yeah, that's another one. Yeah, action movie Groundhog's Day. All right. The political stressors of Timothy McVeigh. Sorry for the repeat, folks. It has been a little bit. Hayner Mali seemed to care for and worry about her new employee, who she called Timmy, just like us.
Timmy!
She described him as paradoxically boyish yet fiery. He seemed more like a child to me than an adult man, she said. He seemed almost lost, like he hadn't really grown up yet. He didn't really carry himself like he came out of the military. He didn't stand tall with his shoulders back. He kind of slumped. He was a very, very thin man, almost anorexic. He was the thinnest person I've ever seen. Often, she continued, he seemed socially withdrawn, sometimes cold or expressionless. He never discussed his love or home life and just wasn't an open type of person generally.
Was the cure for Tim's loneliness a mommy GF?
It seems like it. It seems like maybe Timmy was the cure for a mommy GF's loneliness. Does that read as she would have been down? I think it does.
I probably, at least I think Wendy certainly believes so.
He told the Jones team he found his home life stressful during this time. For one thing, his sister returned to live with her father shortly before he did and had commandeered his bedroom, relegating him to the couch at night. His consequent inability to get adequate sleep left him agitated and chronically overtired. Further, he said, his father complained too much, his sister partied too much, and the phone was ringing off the hook. I got a job at Burn Security, but the stress of working in the city and the political stresses started eating at me slowly. The traffic was stressful, and so was working with idiots. The boss was an asshole, and the pay was low. Oh, man, he didn't like Mommy GF. That's so mean. She liked him.
I guess because she wasn't married to anybody.
Yep. Total true self. When asked to elaborate on the exact nature of his political stresses, he responded, "It's tough to offer examples of political stress at this point because it would take 10 pages to explain. But like what what did he have other than time? But they came from my heightened sense of awareness of what the news was really saying. The news would come on and I would watch it. I was reading the papers more in depth than I used to. Even Bill McVeigh corroborated this when he recalled the alarm he felt upon seeing his son's recurring outbursts, yelling and throwing things at the television. You know what also could have saved Timmy? Any internet outlet for being red-pilled. Literally any. Like you know, it was just a little too early. If this had happened 10 years later, he'd have been fine.
He'd have had a great shitposting account. He would have had a bunch of e-girls in his DMs. He would have
and he'd be like, "Are you married?
Curtis Yardman.
If not, no deal." He'd be following he'd
have a best-selling book, a blog, Timmy's Thoughts, .substack.com.
His book would be The Perfect and the Wicked, robbing you of your legacy and destiny. Yeah.
You could say he was a real automaton.
You got to work it in every time, don't you?
I have to. This will continue until sales improve.
I still haven't bought Automaton.
I know who has and has not.
You have the lists. You have the full docs on everyone.
I have the Stalinist era lists.
I do have the day one printing of Perfect and the Wicked, though. So thank me. In late 1991 and early 1992, there was a lot in the news. Robert Gates became the director of the CIA. Lebanon released the last U.S. hostages held there. A U.S. district court cleared Colonel Oliver North of all charges against him related to the Iran-Contra debacle. Iraq rejected a UN Security Council resolution demanding they allow UN weapons inspectors and other personnel unconditional access to their weapons facilities and prevented weapons inspectors from taking possession of documents relating to their nuclear weapons program, resulting in a 4-day standoff. The International Atomic Energy Agency ordered Iraq to destroy all facilities manufacturing nuclear weapons, and the last oil fire in Kuwait was extinguished much sooner than originally anticipated through the amazing work of Red Adair and Company.
Is that like the Red Cross for?
I don't know.
I guess that's the Red Crescent, isn't it?
Is that what an Adair is?
I have no idea. Chat, Jamie, pull that up. Hold on.
Adair, is it a shape? Yeah, right. Let's see. The Cold War officially ended when the Soviet Union dissolved. Its president, Mikhail Gorbachev, resigned and Boris Yeltsin replaced him. Is that how you is it Yeltsin with an O?
No.
No, it isn't. Yeah, it's Yeltsin with an I. Okay. All right.
So
Typo.
all I'm getting is a guy named Red Adair who was a firefighter.
Amazing. What a sick name. Yeah, that's
Oh, I see. Oh, no, he literally was a firefighter who was instrumental in capping the oil wells.
that's amazing. Get capped, idiot. Good job. Cold War, yeah, replaced him. The majority of Soviet republics seceded. China ratified the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty. World leaders met to discuss the formation of the post-Cold War New World Order. The UN Security Council passed a resolution to deploy peacekeeping troops to Yugoslavia. The U.S. Coast Guard began deporting thousands of Haitian refugees seeking political asylum. Yes! Yes!
Wait, the UN must have done a really bad job because Yugoslavia doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah, well, they kept the peace.
Well,
But
more
not the
like
country.
peace is.
Yeah.
I'm so good at commentary.
David Duke, a former KKK Grand Wizard and future Hodge Twins guest, unsuccessfully ran for governor of Louisiana. Arkansas Governor Bill Clinton announced his intention to run for president in the upcoming elections. Magic
Boo.
Johnson, point guard for the LA Lakers, announced he had contracted HIV, and Freddie Mercury, lead singer for Queen, died of HIV.
Boo.
Yeah, AIDS-related pneumonia, HIV. On a lighter note, President George Bush Sr. vomited on the Prime Minister of Japan on live TV.
Yay.
Yay! Yeah, I
And
mean,
people want to get after Trump for, putting in all those fish flakes at once.
what?
Do you remember that? Like, he was visiting
Oh, he just like
Shinzo
dumped him
Abe.
to the. He just like dumped him in the koi pond.
Yeah, but it was like a really shitty edit because Shinzo Abe did the same thing like a second before.
Oh,
So
really?
he's just following his lead.
It's like, all right, yeah.
It's like, this is not the worst thing a president has done to Japan. That's not even
to
in
a
the top
Japanese prime
3.
minister. Yeah, and we know
I'd
that
say
Shinzo
Truman's number 1,
Abe.
and then George Bush, and whoever the guy who sent Commodore Perry.
I don't know.
I think that might have been
McKinley. I don't know.
No, it's before McKinley. No, that was who was the guy after Grant? We'll say Rutherford B. Hayes. All right,
Sure.
Rutherford B. Hayes hated in Japan.
Rutherford B. Hayton. You know who's loved in Japan? Douglas MacArthur.
Yeah.
The American Caesar, the white shogun. Douglas fucking MacArthur. Actually, the only guy in the 20th century to successfully nation build and then withdraw all US troops.
Oh, yes, because there are no US troops in Japan anymore.
Well, yeah, but they're not forcing them to do anything.
Oh.
They're not a policing force. They're there to point guns at China. Let's see.
When you think about it, it's actually really messed up for Japan.
What?
Because they're like a hostage in their own country.
Oh, no. They're completely Stockholm syndrome. In fact, it should really be called Tokyo syndrome.
Yeah, that's what Paris syndrome should be called too.
What? I don't even know what Paris syndrome is.
Oh, it's whenever Japanese people go to Paris and it's not as cool as they thought it would be, so they kill themselves. But then again, not doesn't take much to get a
Did
Japanese
that really
person
happen?
To the point that it is a syndrome, yes.
It's a thing that people say. Wow.
Yeah.
Do not visit Paris. You will be disappointed. Manage expectations, Japanese. Come on, guys.
No, they are so in love with the City of Lights that the fact that it is not the Hunchback of Notre Dame makes them just go crazy.
Dude, I mean, to be real with you, Esmeralda
was
peak.
14.
Peak.
14.
She looked legal in the Disney cartoon.
Whoa, Your Honor.
2D women are fine. Let's see. If there's one thing the Japanese have said, 2D women are fine, and I don't mean flat. Right. Stickney noted that even after returning home, McVeigh, always a prolific writer, authored possibly hundreds and hundreds of letters to friends, agencies, publications, and of course relatives.
When is that going to get collected?
What? Oh, all the
When is
collected writings of
yeah,
Timothy McVeigh.
Antelope Hill can put out the collected writings of Timothy McVeigh.
Oh my god, that would be. I mean, I don't know. That could be interesting. Maybe they're just all about fucking his friends' wives. Maybe it's mostly gooning. Like, would you still want to read it then, Hudson?
Gabe Sinclair presents the collected writings of Timothy McVeigh.
One of God's strongest gooners. All right. He could talk to Steve in person anytime he wanted, but continued to write him letters and ostensibly, to save on the price of stamps, personally dropped them in his mailbox. His letters became more political, and Steve noticed his friend's opinions had become startlingly more vehement.
That's when I knew Tim was weird. He started mailing me letters without getting the government
Just
involved.
dropping them off. Although we're going to have our own postal service with blackjack and hookers. Although he knew of no local persons or groups who shared McVeigh's strange politics. The letters he wrote to Steve at this time demonstrate. Imagine the dedication it takes to auto-radicalize yourself. Like that's amazing. Just I mean that's the narrative, right? Like he auto-radicalized himself, or he was like sending away for sending away
like
for
a 5th
books.
century monk. He just kept reading the text until all became clear.
Yeah, right, exactly. And then he was just like, fuck all of this. Yeah. The letters he wrote to Steve at this time demonstrate the extent to which his obsession with the Turner Diaries had grown. For example, only weeks after returning, McVeigh wrote, "Read this book, The Turner Diaries, when you have time to sit down and think. When I read it, I would have to stop and think at the end of every paragraph and examine the deeper meaning of what I had just read. The book, without a doubt, has racial overtones, but please read it anyway, just to view the literal genius of it. You can tell it was written as propaganda, but if you can recognize this, it should not be a threat. There are many other ideas besides the racism that are expressed in this book that really are eye-opening. I know you are set on your racial views, and I'm not giving you this book to convert you. I do, however, want you to understand that other side and view the pure literal genius of this piece. Again, this is accomplished by not just simply reading this, but analyzing every sentence you've read. Think, what made the author write that paragraph? Or what deeper meaning is he trying to convey? Or how, by wording it like that, is he trying to subliminally influence someone's thinking? If you look at it like this, it is a masterpiece. Again, it is a very high profile book. Every pro and in between person in America knows something about it. Let me know what you think. I'm sure you will. I'm sure you will.
I'm pretty sure if I met him in real life, I would hate him.
McVeigh?
Yeah.
Because he was recommending that you read?
No, because he sounds like a total douche.
Oh, because he wants you to do the Spenglerian reading of the Turner Diaries.
Yes, I have to do the needful for Mr. Tim.
Do the needful for Timmy. Yeah, man, it is not a well-written book, just to be clear.
No, and even what's his name?
Guy who has only read the Turner Diaries, reading his second book, getting some real Turner Diaries vibes from this. Sorry, go on.
No. William Luther Pierce even said that the book's not really that well written. His interview with Art Bell on Coast to Coast AM is revealing.
Is it better than the Turner Diaries?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. No, but again, I could go off into an Art Bell tangent real quick. I'm
pop off, King.
I'm such a fan, but he was such a lib, and it's clear throughout the interview that he never does this in his other interviews. So it's shocking that it's very obvious that he does this in this one, where he's really trying to do a gotcha type interview with Pierce.
Oh my god, getting gotcha'd by Art Bell would be deeply embarrassing.
And he doesn't. Pierce doesn't fall into it because the whole time Art Bell's really trying to stick him with a. Well, there was a truck bomb in the Turner Diaries. Don't you feel a little responsible for Oklahoma City? And he's like, in that weird accent, he's like, "Well, no, there was a
Was I
truck
in the
bomb.
truck?
Yes, there was a truck bomb, but that's not my truck bomb, you see, because I had the FBI in my book. Wait, never mind. Let's talk about races." Actually, I think that's a pretty good Pierce.
I mean, you gotta yeah, that was that. I mean, that's pretty good. He's like high pitched Ron Paul.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, that's good. Yeah, but he's high pitched, but also slow.
Yeah,
Anyway,
yeah, exactly. Not jittery. All right. When Steve responded by voicing his negative reaction to the book, Tim went ballistic. And in his next letter dated February
explosive even.
in his next letter dated February 24th, 1992, he said that Steve's poor opinion of the book had caused him to lose sleep and even threatened to end their lifelong friendship. Tim accused Steve of turning into a typical Amherst persona who
What
views
does
the
that
world
mean?
with rose-colored glasses, makes a decent living, has a home to go to, a nice car to drive, cable TV, your $900 a year health club, your warm living room, your secure job, your own wife rather than somebody else's.
Well,
So
look at the city slicker in his fancy German car.
it's American.
Not Guatemalan.
It's Guatemalan. Oh
All
yeah.
right, Mr. Gucci loafers. I got these shoes from a hobo.
And your $20 manicure and haircut. Well, I just believe in good grooming.
There we go. We finished it. We did it,
Yeah, we
Reddit.
finished it. We did the whole thing.
Guys, you remember Sneed?
We did the whole thing. We did the whole Chuck suck and fuck.
Oh, that's what that is. Formerly
Yeah.
Chuck's. Ah, yes. Okay. All right.
The best oh man, yeah. Yeah. It would take a lot. We could just do all of the
Yes, yes. You
we'll do all
tuned
the
in for
famous.
Timothy McVeigh, and you're getting all the best Simpsons memes.
Yeah, you're getting all the best Simpsons scenes. Yeah, we'll do a table read of steamed hams for $100.
Yes, send us money, and we will do steamed hams.
We'll do steamed hams.
In it's Timothy McVeigh and William Luther Pierce performing steamed hams.
We don't have a
Timothy.
we do I do not have I don't even know what Timothy McVeigh's voice sounds like actually.
He did a couple TV interviews.
I mean, I'm sure he
Honestly, he
did,
just
but I
sounds like
just
normal
like
upstate
a
New
guy.
Yorker. Yeah,
Albany. It's an Albany
Utica. It's a
expression.
Utica accent, actually.
Yeah. Because I'm from Utica, and can't make them buy the cow if I'm giving the milk away for free, huh, guys? All right.
Just a little preview for you guys out there.
Meanwhile, for Timothy McVeigh, nothing was fine. He began writing a series of letters to local newspapers and politicians that Stickney described as a furious jumble over numerous unrelated social and political problems. Stickney's employer, the Lockport Union Sun and Journal, published 2 of them. In the first, on February 11th, 1992, McVeigh outlined his complaints about the world to which he had returned. These included rising crime rates, overcrowded prisons, increasing racism and taxes. Man, if you don't like overcrowded prisons,
you're going to hate rising crime rates.
You're going to hate undercrowded prisons.
There's no one in this prison. Where are all the prisoners?
Out. We released them. You were complaining about overcrowding. Now they're just on the street doing crime. Increasing racism and taxes. He's mad about increasing racism. Brother, the call is coming from inside the house. Come on. And taxes, all of which he said had reached cataclysmic levels with no end in sight.
The finger thing means the taxes.
To McVeigh, nobody was seeing the big picture. Curiously, employing a language of illness, he explained that laws passed by career politicians only dilute a problem for a while until the problem comes roaring back in a worsened form, much like a strain of bacteria will alter itself to defeat a known medication. To stem the ongoing avalanche of decay, again, avalanche of decay mentioned,
My
he, rather
goodness, Wendy.
surprisingly, suggested combining ideologies and adapting the communist idea of state sponsored healthcare and closed the letter by asking, is civil war imminent? Do
Tim
we have to
Pool?
shed blood to reform the current system? I hope it doesn't come to that, but it might. Boy, is it
Tim
a
Pool
little, is
did
it,
OKC?
there is literally a Luthemplar poll today, still going, in fact, on on X.com, asking, would you rather live in a ethnically homogenous communism or
Diverse liberalism?
in
I
in,
voted in
in
that.
diverse liberal democracy?
I
Yeah.
I won't say which one I voted for,
Well,
just to keep things.
85% of people voted for homogenous communism.
Yeah,
So,
so did I.
and these are this
Luthemplar
is a
does not have a
very right
leftist
wing.
audience.
Although he does not have a leftist audience. Although he is, he's a Catholic integralist.
Integralist, yeah.
So that's kind of communism. I mean, it's papal communism.
Yeah,
Kind of.
except for Joseph Stalin, you get Pope Francis.
Right. Right. So,
Sure,
um,
sure, 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 sure,
sure,
sure,
sure, sure,
sure.
sure, 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 sure.
And
Yeah,
so,
as long as it's a theocracy, man. Um, let's see. It's
as
based
long as they're baptized,
as long as they're
it will be the next. As long as they're here legally.
anyway, these takes, things have not really changed a whole lot to the
No,
present day.
no, I
Although,
don't. I think
yeah,
Tim would have gone insane had he lived.
I mean, do you think he went insane anyway? Like, I think he was
No,
probably
no, I
not
think.
super balanced.
eh,
Not in, okay, maybe not like,
I think he was made insane by certain people named Jolly on West.
yeah, not to name names, but Jolly West.
Jolly on West definitely scrambled that guy's brain when he was taking out the tracking chip in his
It is
anus.
amazing. It is amazing how quickly Jolly West could work. It's truly a savant, honestly. It's a shame we will never know the full extent of his abilities and influence. Let's see. In the second letter, published on March 10th, 1992, he wrote that traditionally hunting animals for food was a means of survival. Hunters killed animals quickly with a clean, merciful shot. And then the animal dies in its own environment, quick and unexpected. Currently, however, people thoughtlessly purchase cellophane wrapped meat at the grocery store, never questioning the process of how it got there in the first place. The breeding conditions of these animals, especially cattle, were cruel and deprived animals of their innate dignity. He ended the letter by asking, would you rather die while living happily or die while leading a miserable life? You tell me which is more humane. It was during this time, late winter of 1992, that McVeigh, never a hunter, drove out to a field near Attica Prison, and in an act he said surprised even himself and left him unsettled for days, pointed his gun at a woodchuck and, like the Iraqis in their trenches, aimed at its head and killed it.
Not exactly like the Iraqis. The Iraqis tried to surrender. The woodchuck didn't know what was going on.
The woodchuck tried to surrender too, actually. It was uncanny.
It started speaking Arab or Arabic.
The holes in the ground are speaking Arabic. It's like the trees speaking Vietnamese. There is, man. I mean, I wish that they had said what kind of weapon was used, because I mean there are a lot of them that if he had like a deer rifle, that woodchuck would have been fucking vaporized.
It was
Yeah.
a Barrett 50 cal BMG.
Yeah, it was a Desert Eagle, just like the guy in the Cybertruck.
Yeah, just like the guy
yesterday.
in the Cybertruck.
A Desert Eagle, a totally normal gun that people would actually use.
The thing that people buy those all the time. What are you talking about?
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
the number one export of Israel.
The Desert Eagle. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, look, if you're gonna have an Israeli pistol, use a Jericho. Jericho is fucking Kino. Desert Eagle is for people who are trying to,
That's like if you're like a gun completionist.
Yeah, you have to have one.
Yeah. It's like I don't even use it. Do you know how expensive the bullets are for this thing? Probably more than the Cybertruck.
50 AE it's like 75 cents around the last time I shot a deagle. And like I don't own a deagle, but I like everybody else who has ever been to a range has
Yes, I'll
rented one.
take the deagle.
Yeah.
And you have to say that. If you say Desert Eagle, they turn you around.
They make you do a 360 and moonwalk on out of there. Yeah, no, very CS:GO gun.
Arms
makes it
akimbo,
seem like
please.
an op, to be honest. Yeah, it makes it seem like an op. But
I saw somebody comment that they were like, did the guy who designed this op just play a lot of CS:GO?
Exactly. No, I mean it really, like, we know from having read this book that lone wolf killers typically
use 22 LR.
22 long rifle pistols. Yeah, exactly. So a 50 AE, about the full ass opposite of that. Anyhow,
best not to look into this more.
Do not research. Yeah. All will be known in the fullness of time, or
We'll
it'll probably
we'll ask friend of the show Justin Moan about this. I'm sure he'll have an answer for us.
One day we'll have him on. One day. If he doesn't get the death penalty in Pennsylvania.
Do they have that in Pennsylvania? The death penalty?
Actually, I have no idea. They might not.
Pull that up.
They might not. It's a purple state, so they may not. I was surprised to learn that New York still had it. Actually,
they do, but it has not carried one out since 1999.
Well, old Luigi.
There are 96 people on death row in Pennsylvania, and none of them are going to get executed anytime soon.
Right. They're just chilling. The majority of accounts written about McVeigh cite such letters as proof of his increasingly hostile and radical political leanings. For instance, Ham said they offer a glimpse into the right-wing milieu as it existed prior to Ruby Ridge and Waco, and, not knowing the extent of McVeigh's medical odyssey, keenly observed that they also illustrated the disintegration of his mind and body, and his obsession with the atrophy of his body, as a correlate of the modern body politic and McVeigh's own private hell. Hell is, I've always said that hell is other people, so a private hell is no hell at all.
I'm pretty sure Ham thought he was real clever for that last one. The atrophy of his body correlates to the modern body politic.
Yes, the corpus of the polis.
Everyone's trying to be more deep than they are.
How deep is Ham? We have our own Ham. How deep is that Ham?
He's very deep.
How deep that Ham go, girl? How deep that Ham? The breakdown. I will find out exactly how deep that Ham is, because we're supposed to be playing a game of Fatal with the guys from Book Club from Hell, probably towards the end of this month. So we will roll for Ham depth. We will find out.
I'm gonna pretend that I know exactly what you're talking about, and you're not a giant fucking nerd.
I am a giant fucking nerd. You cannot pretend otherwise. Let's see. All right, the breakdown. Simply put, Timothy McVeigh snapped to Herbeck and Mitchell.
Michelle.
I'm going to say Mitchell.
There's no T in there, you illiterate.
Michelle. He relayed the following story. The problem is that French is a fey language. There's just no way. There's just no way. One cold and snowy afternoon, about the 3 months after his return to New York, he went to his grandfather, Ed McVeigh's house. Upon greeting him at the door, Ed was startled to find his grandson standing there with no shoes, socks, or shirt, dressed only in sweatpants and in an apparent state of panic and despair. Tim refused to tell his grandfather the nature of his problem, saying only that he thought he was having a nervous breakdown and asked if he could take a nap. As he lay alone, he was overcome by dark thoughts. He considered killing himself, but soon fell into a deep sleep.
And
On
his
waking,
grandfather couldn't help because no shoes, no shirt, no service.
those are the rules.
It's posted right there, son.
Sorry, Tim. Those are the rules. I got that sign from an old Kmart. Actually, Kmart would have been not that
Probably
old.
the most popular store in America.
Yeah,
at the
Kmart
time.
would have been the most popular store in America at the time. That's
I
so
got
true.
it from an old Piggly Wiggly.
I got it from the Price Chopper. All right, hold on. I fucking missed it. I think the no shirt, no shoes, no service signs were actually in Kmart.
I know they were in 7-Elevens and stuff like that.
Upon waking, he left his grandfather's house, and the two never spoke of the incident again. Though Tim said he would forever regret not knowing how to explain his anxieties to his grandfather. Yeah, I mean, honestly, could have just been sleep deprived. If his
Tim just needed a nap.
If his sister, very much in the mold of Mickey, the whore does not fall far from the tree. Had just not been living, not had to live there. It's understandable that he would have to move back in with his dad after getting out of the military, but his sister, older than him, she could have had a fucking job. Go get a job, bitch, or you sleep on the couch because you
unemployment's at a record low right now. Everybody has a job. I have a job. I'm a crazy person. I have a job.
Yeah, he has a job, but he has to sleep on the fucking couch. Come on, man. So he should have just moved in with his grandpa because apparently he could walk there with no shoes on, right?
No, he had shoes. He took them off. He literally stripped in his grandfather's house.
He was standing. Upon greeting him at the door, Ed was startled to find his grandson standing there with no shoes, socks, or shirt.
I misread that. Okay, only in sweatpants. And I see.
Yeah, he didn't just walk in and get butt ass naked.
See, that's exactly what I thought happened.
Oh, you thought he just went and meet out in front of grandpa?
Right.
Okay, yeah, that is
which is
actually weirder.
Weirder. Yeah, no, I thought, okay, what's the weirdest way to interpret what's going on right now?
Yeah. No, the weirdest way would be him stripping his grandfather.
Right.
That would be weirder.
Well, I mean, who hasn't given their grandfather a sponge bath before?
Man, I'm sure that there's someone in the audience who has, because of the decline of their grandfather, and that sounds horrible to me, actually.
It's not great, Bob.
It's not great, Bob. Yeah. Unknown to his biographers, in bits and pieces during the 2 years prior to the bombing, he had told a variation of this story to his sister Jennifer, the whore, who, shortly after her brother's arrest, related it to the FBI and the Jones team. According to Jennifer, the whore, Tim told her that his classified domestic intelligence mission disturbed him greatly, totally crashed his feeling about the government, shattered his dreams, left him completely disillusioned, and sent him into intense turmoil. His experience at the sassafras and subsequent contact with his handlers was a major turning point in his life. After leaving the army, he attempted to move on and put the past behind him by ignoring and trying to forget about his secret assignment. But one day, a mysterious man unexpectedly arrived at the doorstep of his father's house. Reminded him, you arrive at my father's house. Reminded him of his obligations and warned that if he failed to comply with his orders, he would face criminal charges. Her brother now believed he was.
Well, it's a good thing he did and didn't face any sort of consequences.
Didn't face any criminal charges at all. Right.
Hey, wait a minute.
Timothy McVeigh's future, noted for its lack of facing criminal charges. Her brother now believed he was being tracked down by the military and feared for not only his own life, but the safety of his family. The burden of what he knew continued to weigh on him. It became too great to bear alone. He just couldn't keep it bottled up inside. Keep up the pretense that all was right with the world. Live a normal life knowing what he now knew. Or arrive at a solution for his dilemma and considered suicide. Finally, in a panic, he drove to their grandfather's house, explained the situation, swore him to secrecy, and cried for hours. Jennifer the whore said that after his breakdown,
her brother was. The worst part is she can't keep a secret worth shit.
Right. Said that after his breakdown, her brother was noticeably more anxious, restless, scared, and acted confused. She described his fear as noticeable, real, enduring, and one he would continue to express to her and others over the following 3 years. His claimed belief of being tracked by the army is absent from or underemphasized and underexamined in all previously published accounts, and remains an issue which, whether real or not, appears to play a very important part in the secret life of Timothy McVeigh. As noted previously, in his account of his alleged conversations with McVeigh, death row inmate David Paul Hammer mentioned, wrote that while at the Special Forces tryout, McVeigh was recruited by the Major, uh, and we already mentioned today who the Major is, to work on Department of Defense Black Ops projects. So secret, even the Secretary of Defense was unaware that the unit even existed. Although, in Hammer's version, or the one McVeigh told him, he hadn't completely rejected the mission and was still on board.
I don't know, man. Because like on the one hand, this just sounds like some Robert Ludlum stuff, but I'm also schizo-brained enough to know that shit like this happens.
To know that Jolly and West was a real person who did
Yeah.
things like this?
Yeah, and that
Yeah.
there are like black budget or black ops stuff that aren't known by elected officials or appointees, but by the deep state.
Why can the DoD not pass an audit? It's because most of their budget is this shit.
It's
Like-
going to Ryder trucks.
Yep. And fertilizer. And I do not mean the farm bill.
We got to keep subsidizing corn. That's why we need all this fertilizer, Mr. President.
Well, all right.
I'll get Janet Reno on the case. She'll figure it out.
She knows just what to do with all that fertilizer. McVeigh was to familiarize himself with the rhetoric of the extreme right ideology and create a plausible aura of a disgruntled soldier. He was to await further instructions. As with all other assignments, McVeigh immersed himself completely. In December of 1991, McVeigh left the Army as an active duty soldier. He returned to his dad's home in upstate New York, where he took on the role of just being a civilian, no one ever knowing of his sleeper agent status. Tim was anxious to hear from the Major and proceed with whatever specific assignment that may lie ahead of him.
It's like A Beautiful Mind, except he builds a truck bomb instead of solving like economics or something.
The funniest explanation is that they set him up, told him to like go undercover, learn the idiot,
just to mess with him.
Told him to do it, and then he actually got red pilled, because he was method acting the whole time, right? He just like went into it and he was like, "Oh man, this Turner, I've never read a book in my fucking life, but man, this Turner Diary thing seems real good."
Yeah, I think it was oh yeah, Gabe said another one, or had a comment before him talking to Uncle Ted. He's like, "Hey, have you read the Turner Diaries?"
Yes, I've read the Turner Diaries. I've read so much. Yeah.
All I can do before execution is read, Tim.
That's most of what I did.
I've never owned a television.
Yeah. Big reader. You know what that shed was mostly full of? Books. They were the only kind of insulation. Do you have any idea how many books you need to not die in a Minnesota winter?
Montana.
Whatever. It's a state with
I stole my house, Tim.
They stole my entire house.
My stanza.
They stole my entire house. I can't believe those FBI guys stole my shed. Doug's gonna kill me. Yeah, that was it. So you know where that thing is now? So it was in the news. It was in the museum. Yeah, but then that thing closed. No one went to the museum.
Nobody wanted to see where industrial society and its future was written. I can't believe that.
I mean, I definitely wanted to go see it, and I looked it up a few years ago and was like, oh, crap, it's in Quantico. Yeah, it's in Quantico. It was on loan, and they took it to Quantico. Yeah, so now you can it's just like a fucking trophy.
Okay, like, guys. Chat, we're gonna raise enough money so that we can get the Unabomber's house on loan.
Oh, we're gonna start the great we're gonna start the
The Chudseum.
the crime the great criminal museum. That'd be something they would totally wanna help us out with. We'll get the manuscript of the Turner Diaries. We'll get Timothy McVeigh's goon letters about his friends' wives. It'll be great. It'll be great. All right. A little R&R. Shortly after the incident at his grandfather's, McVeigh was promoted to a desk job as scheduling supervisor at the Burn Security HQ office. Here, he met receptionist and personnel manager Andrea Augustine, with whom he would develop his only enduring and close yet platonic relationship with a female other than his sister. Augustine found him to be thoughtful, nice person that she could rely on and confide in, and soon their friendship extended beyond work hours. Oh, he got friend zoned so fucking hard. Augustine described her impressions. He did really well as a security guard, so they brought him into the office to do scheduling. We worked a lot in the office together. At first, he was very quiet, socially awkward, and kind of shy. But the more I started working with him, the more I saw he was a nice guy. I liked his personality. He was fun. I liked working with him. We were always talking and joking. He was joking around all the time. He was very outgoing and funny, but you wouldn't know it if you first met him. But after talking to him, he'd come out of his shell and he'd let loose. I never visited him at home, but he came to mine a few times. We talked on the phone every day after work for hours, though. We were good friends. You fucking bitch.
Seriously.
This is why he did it. This is why he did it. He
You'll
got
notice me now.
Yeah, he got fucking friend zoned super hard. No dude does that. No dude does that to a fucking woman he does not want to have sex
no
with.
man has ever been friends with a woman.
I don't think that's true, but I don't think it's ever happened outside of like
being gay.
Yeah, maybe, but like this is insane.
I've
this
never.
Is insane. He obviously. There's no way, right? There's no way. That was this was the whole thing. This is why he gone and done it, because he was hard up for Andrea, and she wouldn't let him get his rocks off. That's why. I
She
figured
was
it
a
out.
frigid cold bird, that one.
I've cracked the case.
And it.
Yep.
All right, I think we've done that bit to death.
That one's done. Yeah. Oh, requited. So true. Forget paying. We could do a midnight raid. If it's a small shack, what could possibly go wrong? Yeah. I mean,
yeah, it's just an FBI headquarters on a military base.
Yeah. Like, but we're trying to steal a shack. How heavily guarded could this shack possibly be? And then we can just part it out and sell first class Uncle Ted relics. It'll be great. Or second class.
Ocean's 14, the time they went to steal Uncle Ted's cabin.
Yeah, to sell second class Ted Kaczynski relics to weirdos on the internet. Obviously, they'll be able to track us by just buying one.
Starring George Clooney.
Man, what is he? Has he been in anything recently? I don't think so.
No, he's just busy bossing Joe Biden around.
Oh man, yeah, he's the puppet master the whole time was George Clooney.
He started doing it because nobody watched Syriana.
Oh yeah. While he never went into details about it, Augustine said her new friend told her that he had killed people during the war, fondly recalled how he kept her up to date on current news events, and even mentioned the letters he wrote to the local papers. Augustine, who had no political inclinations, said his occasional rants about the Second Amendment and other issues were of no concern, but she did note that he was strong-willed about them.
And
if he believes in something, it kind of seems like she didn't. It kind of seems a little.
I swear, oblivious. If she was totally into him and he just missed the signs because of pure autism.
God.
Ladies,
oh my God!
If there are any women listening to this show, there can't be.
There will never be. Yeah.
Okay, but if you meet a man, right, and he doesn't get what you think are obvious signs, I just want you to just kiss him.
Right. Exactly.
Right.
Just do it. It's fine. You will never be accused of sexual assault. It will not happen.
You know, he probably, if you do it just once and he's confused, he probably won't think it actually happened.
Yeah, you just have to tell him, yes, that really happened. I am available for the insertion of your member. Like those are that's how it works with you, mister. Like you just say it like that with all the pauses and everything. He'll go for it. It's fine. All right. If
That's
he
for
believes
all our lady listeners,
for
all
all
two
our
of you.
lady listeners,
Don't
yes,
you guys have
now
like a
and in the
14-year-old
future.
subscriber now?
Oh no. Oh fuck no. Please no. If he believes in something, she said, that's it. If we do, I will personally ban the account.
Yes, yes. Again,
Um,
we only believe in this if it's done legally at a ripe old age.
at the ripe old age of 38.
Yes,
Uh,
of course.
if he believes in something, she said, that's it. You will not change his mind. She remembered that Tim, unable to
Women
engage
can't
her,
enjoy sex, Andrea.
it's impossible. They don't have a cock.
But Tim, I think we could try. No,
No, Andrea, no.
you're not even married.
You're not even married. How could we? Premarital sex is wrong. So's adultery, but I'm not committing adultery.
I'm already an adult.
God. She remembered that Tim, unable to engage her in his political discussions, persistently attempted to draw his male coworkers into them, often brought related literature to work, and occasionally handed out news articles. Sometimes the guys just didn't want to get caught up in talking about his political stuff. They didn't care. They would listen to him and debate, but Tim didn't care. He wanted to keep going, and they were like, "Shut up."
For the love of God, Tim, the Bills lost 4 Super Bowls in a row.
Oh man, they will never win. Just to be real with you.
I'm so happy God will not allow Buffalo to have anything nice.
Um, I'm going to check something. I'm going to see if I can quickly find a picture of Andrea Augustine.
Ah, yes. Okay, so while Cap is doing some research for the good audience, let me explain something. So there is an NFL football team. That's the National Football League. They have a team in Buffalo, New York, called the Bills, named after Buffalo Bill Cody, who was a cowboy circus performer type guy in the 1800s. Uh, Now, the Buffalo Bills have never won the Super Bowl, which is the big game at the end of the year. And doing,
The big game at the end of the year.
yeah, at the end of the season, really, it's at the beginning of the year because it happens in February these days. Uh, I, this is all off the top of my head. Cap, have you found this lady yet? I don't know how
Uh,
much.
so there's no picture of her, but apparently she was interviewed with video on an episode of 60 Minutes. So pictures of her in 1999 or 1997 do exist.
Do you want
Um,
to? Do you have that video? Do you want to pull it
I
up?
do not have that video,
All right.
unfortunately. It is one episode from 19. I mean, I don't
All
even
right.
know.
How about you keep reading and I'll try and find it.
Okay. Um, yeah, it's an episode from 1997, but and then you can scrub through it. Also, but I did find a picture of Jennifer McVeigh, and let me tell you,
Schwing?
she's a wood. She's a wood. Yeah, I mean, she's thin, right? Because genetic. Timothy was really thin. But no, she's cute. She's cute. Yeah.
I
Jennifer
wonder what she's
McVeigh.
doing today.
She's probably an
Apparently,
old
she's
run.
a writer of historical fiction. I don't
Are
think
you
that's so.
shitting me?
I really hope that it's literally the first thing that came up, but it's a .uk address, so I'm pretty sure it's not her.
Oh man, how disappointing. Anyway, I mean, she's a mid, but she's cute.
She's a quirky mid who can't keep a
Yeah,
secret.
quirky mid. She was cute. She was cute at the time. There's some pictures of her next to oh god. No, it actually is her. She
Really,
really does write historical fiction.
that is amazing. Okay, I know what the next book we have to read is.
Oh man. Oh no, wait, no. The one who wrote the Fever Tree is not the same. Yeah, it's not the same Jennifer McVeigh.
Dude, you got
Sorry,
my hopes up
sorry,
so hard.
bud. Sorry. Actually, the real Jennifer McVeigh is cuter than the author Jennifer McVeigh. So,
Yeah,
she's got like those Lady Gaga DSLs.
and she's got a
So,
pretty big nose.
yeah, yeah. Um, a physiognomy that like is really associated with being absolutely masterful at giving dome. So, yeah,
This
just
is a
saying.
serious podcast,
This is
folks.
a super serious podcast. Yeah, we're gonna objectify a female name. Got to get a photo of this one. Yeah.
Well, I mean, it doesn't help that you keep calling her Jennifer the whore.
Well, look, man. You know, you build one bridge, they don't call you Jennifer the Bridge Builder. Um. All
But
right.
you have one brother who blew up the Murrah Federal Building in Oklahoma City in 1995.
And they call you Jennifer the whore. All right. Still, according to her, most of their coworkers considered McVeigh to be a good employee who always did as instructed. As scheduler at the Burns office, he managed 400 security
Oh,
guards in the
interesting.
Buffalo
Hold on.
area. What?
So Andrea Augustine might be a married name
Uh-oh.
because on this Tumblr site that I found, she is Andrea Peters.
Oh. Well, maybe Peters is a married name.
Maybe. Yeah, maybe. Oh, well, then you would think that they would have sealed the deal at the time. Come on, Cap, think.
No, obvious. Oh, yeah, I mean, no. If she was Andrea Augustine, if she was married at the time, they would have sealed the deal. But she was
Exactly.
unmarried and therefore was unable to be.
Yeah,
Was
so I'm saying
unable to
she's
be vetted.
probably Andrea Augustine now and was Andrea Peters then.
I don't know about that. All right,
I know about that.
I know about that. Still, according to her, most of their coworkers considered McVeigh a good employee who always did as instructed. As scheduler at the Burns office, he managed 400 security guards in the Buffalo area, but it was only a matter of months before even the office position became a source of overwhelming anxiety for him. Thus, although technically a demotion, he requested a transfer back to guard duty, and specifically that he be assigned to Calspan, a local defense contractor whose main facility is located across from the Buffalo International Airport. McVeigh confirmed this to his attorneys and further explained that he got along poorly with his tyrannical boss at the office. And since the Calspan site required a security clearance that he held, requested the transfer. Rather than having him quit altogether, he said his higher-ups at Burns agreed to push me out to Calspan for some R&R. Although it was not much of a demotion, he said, because while at Calspan, despite his doing practically nothing there, he received full benefits and was secretly paid $2 more than his supervisors. The money, he said, had not been included in his regular paycheck, and instead he picked it up at the Burns office so the other guards would not find out. That does not sound true. Right? That
Sorry,
doesn't.
I'm still looking for
Why would
this
they do
lady.
that? Excuse me. Excuse me.
Bless
All
you.
right. I need
Terrible
to get
reading.
a mute button so that I can like a cough button so I can block that. But yeah, that doesn't seem true. That doesn't seem like it's true. Like there's no way that they're just slipping him an envelope with an extra $2 in it. Like it just seems really unlikely.
$2
Right?
is not a lot of money. It has never been a lot of money,
Well, it's
except in like
$80 a
the
week.
Old West.
$80 a week?
Mm.
$80 a week back then?
Yeah, no, fair enough. If you do basic arithmetic, I guess that is a lot of money.
Yeah. Another guard posted at Calspan who became acquainted with McVeigh described his first impression. This is back when like a gallon of gas was like when like a gallon of gas was like 45 cents or something. Right? Like so another guard posted at Calspan who became acquainted with McVeigh described his first impressions. I was working as a guard at Calspan a few months before McVeigh was transferred there. Calspan does security work for the government, and to get posted there, you have to have a background check and security clearance. So it's hard to find people for that post. It's not a high level clearance, but a lower level one that simply allows you to walk through the buildings. McVeigh had a military background and a security clearance. When I met him, he was very friendly. He was a very friendly, outgoing person, very straight-laced, clean-cut, a military type. He had a military bearing. When you met him, you'd think, this guy's going to be a cop or something. He looked like he was fresh out of the service. In good shape. He was really thin, though. I knew from conversations we had that he was a veteran from the original Iraq conflict, but I didn't know he was in the local National Guard. Sometimes the other guys who'd been in the military would talk to him about military stuff, and they'd bring in their medals and show each other. So the first Iraq conflict, little kind of funny.
Come on, Wendy.
When did he give this interview? LeBron then described we have not heard the name of this
person
of this
before.
guard before.
Another guard.
I guess it's LeBron. LeBron then described or tried to describe the type of work constructed at the facility he and McVeigh conducted.
What was this guy? Forrest Gump? He's meeting LeBron James.
Meeting
William Luther Pierce.
Meeting Jolly on West. Calspan had a couple of different buildings around. It's a national company, and they have office and research centers in other parts of the country too. Mostly associated with, well, I won't say. They have other places they do work at too. You can find some of the stuff in the Buffalo News. If you want to ask them, Calspan, you should, but I don't want to say much. I can only really talk freely about what's already been reported in the public media, but I can't really go any further than that. Anything questionable, I have to stop. I can't talk about it. I don't want to get in trouble with the government. They do work on airplanes for the U.S. and foreign governments, NASA, as well as computer programming, car testing, as far as car crashes and baby seat safety and basic stuff like that. I can tell you
how to
about
blow up a truck with a dead guy in it.
I can tell you about the flight hangar because the public can see it. Look, you're beating it out of me. They got mind control drugs. They got aliens in there.
But I can't talk about it.
I can't talk about it, but there's this breeding program where they're trying to make reptile men.
You see,
not like the regular reptile men who come down and give us the orders, but I can't talk about them.
We had security guards. Whenever we had to bury one of the dead reptile men, we would say they had erectile dysfunction.
We got new kinds of reptiles. Ones with tits. Real tits. You ever had reptile person milk? No, you haven't. I can't talk about it. It's delicious, but I can't talk about it.
It's green.
That's the whole purpose of the breeding program. Reptiles with tits. Mammaries on non-mammals. Genius level stuff. I wish I could talk about it with you.
All right. Thank you, Ziria. I know that was bad, but
that was a bad one. A reptile dysfunction was pretty good. I liked that one.
No, apparently Ziria thought that was bad.
Well, sorry. I support puns, the highest form of humor. Herbeck and Michel wrote that from the moment he set foot on the Calspan property, McVeigh was intrigued. At every opportunity, McVeigh asked Calspan workers about.
Whoa, you could fit a whole bunch of fertilizer here.
Boy, you could fit a lot of fertilizer in this airplane hangar, guys. Yeah.
Is that a lizard with tits?
And when a directive came down instructing the night watchman to steer clear of certain portions of the plant, McVeigh took it as a personal invitation to poke around. Unable to contain his curiosity, he prowled the wind and shock tunnels at night, looking in on the latest research. In one of the Calspan buildings, McVeigh discovered an iguana with size D breasts. The animal wasn't able to walk. There were notes saying that the breasts were perfect, but it needed to be on the torso, more comporting to a humanoid.
And there was a big sign that said, "Do not feed the breasted reptile."
In one of the Calspan buildings, McVeigh discovered that the federal government was renting out space for a secretive law enforcement project called Operation Northstar. The project was housed in an ultra-secure area with entry by special code. McVeigh had caught a glimpse of some paperwork that led him to believe that the U.S. military, federal marshals, and Drug Enforcement Administration agents were occupying the space. One night, he noticed an oddly written memo on a desk. It read like an old-fashioned telegram, with the word "stop" following each sentence of the message. It mentioned the possibility of a two-man submarine penetrating the rivers in the United States, but failed to say why. McVeigh wondered whether the government suspected drug dealers of using such subs in sophisticated smuggling operations. His guesses weren't far off. Years later, the government would
That is
confirm that it
exactly
had.
what they were for, Tim. Very good.
Very good, Timmy. Had the Years later, the government would confirm that it had operated a secret drug interdiction program from office space at Calspan.
You know, what was this guy, an INTJ?
So common. He was not gated though. We know he wasn't gated.
They would have mentioned that in this book.
Yeah, we did read the full McVeigh early life and childhood.
Well, but maybe he just didn't remember he was gated.
Oh yeah. Jolly on West is pleasure to meet you again, Timothy.
Do you remember me from McMartinville preschool?
You were just this tall at the time. My, how you've grown. A bit thin, though. I'm sure Jolly West did not have such an outrageous. I'm sure he did not sound like that, but it would be great if he did. LeBron said that even after quitting the job and leaving upstate New York, McVeigh's interest in Calspan continued. After McVeigh left Buffalo, he wrote me letters. In one, he said that while he was working at Calspan as a guard, he found a document in an office of one floor of the building that was rented out to a government agency. He claimed the document stated that mini submarines were bringing drugs into the country and that, quote, dredging operations on the Mississippi River were to support the access of submarines into the United States of America. To me, it seemed more like fantasy than fact. He invited me to share anything I may come across related to this with him, which I didn't do.
Because I'm not a fucking idiot.
Yeah. I did mention it to the FBI after his arrest, though. He would ask about what was going on at Calspan, and I gave general responses and spoke in generalities. I suggested to him that if he really had any evidence of something, he should come forth with it. While it is unknown what McVeigh may have stumbled across in his rounds at the Calspan facility, it was here that, whether real solely in McVeigh's imagination or some combination thereof, the guilty agent story he told over the subsequent years grew, and where the roots of many later experimental wolf narratives told about him could be found. Hammer wrote that while McVeigh was still at the Special Forces / Black Op recruitment at Fort Bragg, the major explained that the agenda for the secret unit was primarily domestic intelligence gathering and internal threat evaluations, with an emphasis on direct counteraction operations. In this story, McVeigh was then instructed to quit the army, return to Buffalo, bone up on his right-wing rhetoric, and await further instruction. Interestingly, while not publicly known until many years later, during the time McVeigh worked at Calspan, it was indeed the staging ground for an undercover operation that involved his other employer, the National Guard, thus rendering some of the alternative stories told by McVeigh and later others, if not probable, at least more plausible and less irrational.
And therefore true.
And therefore true. It could have happened, therefore it did happen. Iguana tits are canon, folks. You heard it here first. The 1878 Posse Comitatus Act prohibited U.S. military from enforcing civil law on U.S. soil without express authority from the president or Congress, and or as needed to quell lawlessness, insurrection, and rebellion, restore government order, prevent loss of life and wanton destruction of property, and protected federal property and government operations. Statutory amendments allowed. That's weird. That's not a sentence.
Why didn't that get brought up during? I've never heard that once during the January 6th stuff.
What, Posse Comitatus?
Yeah.
Why would it be?
Because
the military wasn't involved.
What are you talking about? Yes, they were. I saw Delta Force guys on the ground.
Oh,
with their stupid haircuts. They were all undercover.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah, so it's military, and you could say, well, they're not U.S. military because they're contractors. They're off the fucking clock. There's so many ways around Posse Comitatus. This simply meant that, except under those circumstances, the military could not detain or arrest civilians. Unfortunately, Posse Comitatus has been popularly misunderstood as prohibiting the military from any role in civilian law enforcement under all circumstances, while in truth, Posse Comitatus never applied to the use of the National Guard, which is conceived as the state military rather than a federal one. Indeed, throughout U.S. history, In so-called times of national emergency, both the National Guard and active duty troops have been called on to assist in civilian policing actions and have conducted domestic intelligence and counterintelligence operations. Throughout the 1980s, you're telling me this now for the first time.
I've never heard of this.
I've never heard of this. Throughout the 1980s, by directives of Presidents Reagan and Bush under the auspices of assisting the war on drugs, incremental exceptions or clarifications were made to posse comitatus that allowed the military to assist in civilian policing by providing equipment, personnel, facilities, and sharing intelligence with local, state, and federal law enforcement agencies. Reagan-Bush era policies advanced the low-intensity conflict resolution model, the goal of which was the resolution of foreign and domestic conflicts by controlling targeted civilian populations by way of an integrated military and civilian police force, whose roles and methods would be interchangeable, i.e., police become more militarized and the military engages in civilian policing and domestic social control functions. The low-intensity conflict goal was further outlined and advanced in the 1989 Defense Authorization Act, which we get one of those every year, which defined the post-Cold War role of the military as one of increasingly blended with civilian policing, justified by claims that the transport of illegal drugs over the border posed a direct threat to the sovereignty and security of the country.
Sovereignty.
Sovereignty, that's right.
Come on, Dave.
While the National Guard traditionally did not have as many restrictions as other branches of the military when it came to civilian policing, there were some. But in 1987, the National Defense Appropriations Act directed the National Guard to provide full cooperations with civilian law enforcement agencies conducting counter-drug operations. By 1989, some National Guard units were participating in searches and arrests, activities previously denied them. By 1992, such practices were commonplace. You ever get pulled over by the National Guard?
All the time, actually. I live near a National Guard base, and there's this one asshole cop who knows where his jurisdiction lies, but decides to pull people over anyway.
Seriously?
No, but
That'd be really
that'd
funny.
be funny.
Funny if true. Yeah, funny if true. Although throughout the mid to late 1980s and early 1990s, significant and increasing numbers of American police departments received training from special operations military units and were closely involved with the Navy SEALs and Army Rangers. In 1989, under the authorization of the DAA, Secretary of Defense Dick Cheney initiated Operation Alliance, a Department of Defense-led effort based in Texas that, in coordination with federal, state, and local agencies, ostensibly attempted to facilitate a rapid response to the threat of illegal drugs, firearms, and other contraband from crossing the U.S.-Mexican border. My, how times have changed.
Whoa, do you think that guy has anything to do with like the Dick Cheney who was vice president for all those years?
Huh. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Doesn't seem likely, right?
Enemy of Donald J. Trump, Liz Cheney?
Father of Elizabeth Cheney?
I don't know, man.
The failed politician?
It's just so weird how the same names just keep coming up.
Firing squad target. Let's see. Operation Alliance was an unprecedented program of police military security forces using advanced operations on urbanized terrain. The very tactic the Army had trained McVeigh in during his trip to Germany, and employing the same methods he complained about after returning. In 1989, an Alliance spinoff was initiated, codenamed Northstar, which focused on the U.S.-Canadian border. While Herbeck and Michel make only brief mentions of this operation and its staging at the Buffalo Calspan facility, they offer no further details, assumedly viewing it as irrelevant. According to a report issued by National Center for State and Local Law Enforcement Training, Northstar's specific purpose was to expand and enhance multi-agency operations and avoid unwarranted duplication and accidental interference between independent operations. Like Alliance, Northstar utilized the equipment, personnel, and intelligence of and coordinated with several federal agencies, including the DoD, FBI, DEA, Border Patrol, Customs, U.S. Coast Guard, and New York National Guard. While Northstar began as part of the counteroffensive in the war on drugs, it came to take on a national security and counterterrorism function as well. Got to keep those Canadians from sneaking across, you know?
Yeah,
You know what I
Geo,
mean?
you stay out. You hear?
Geo, stay out, buddy.
You
Stay
stay
out, man.
out.
You might be Yukon Gold. You might be the what the chicken Lorraine of of northern Spain. I there's a hold on. I want to find this real
Yeah,
quick.
no, it's a good one.
It's really good. It's really good. It'll be there we go. All right. And here he comes, the wonton of Saskatchewan, the chicken leg of Winnipeg, the tart framboise of Ottawa, the meatball of Montreal, the drumstick of New Brunswick, the masala curry of Sudbury, the pineapple mimosa of Nova Scotia, the venison of Edmonton, the butter garlic prawns of St. John, the sautéed liver of Campbell River, the chef boyardee of Port Hardy, the German chocolate cake of Pickle Lake, the strawberry daiquiri of the York Factory, the prime cut of Nunavut, the Yukon Gold, the Canadian bacon, the beefy leaf himself, Giovanni the Spaghetti Paniccetti.
Woo, yeah.
Yeah. Cheers. This Sunday. You're gonna hear someone else's. Don't tell Perut I did that because he's gonna do it.
I'm gonna tell him that you ruined it for the 10 listeners that we have here.
54, sir.
Really?
And
oh wow, look at us.
Yes. And thank you all for listening during live recording and for all of you who listen to it later. We actually Hudson, you'll be pleased to know that the Spotify listeners have really taken off.
Really? That's great.
Yes, it's true.
Yeah. This is why nobody tells me these things in our production meetings.
Nobody tells me these things. Our production the 5 minutes before we start the stream and you come in. The primary group responsible for got to keep the Canadians out. The T and none of it is silent. Much. I don't that's not true. There's no
I believe way. Tom.
There's no way. There's no way. Why would it be there? It wasn't a written language.
Well, I mean, it is in French Canada, so.
None of it. No, it's part of it. It used to be part of the Northwest Territory. How do you not know this about Canada?
Because I don't know anything about Canada.
You don't know anything. You just know that it's up there. It's America's
it's in it like an ethereal place, like the North Pole and Hyperborea.
Man, how sad would it be if Justin Trudeau was the president of Hyperborea? President? Prime Minister? Is he the Prime Minister?
Yeah, he's the Prime Minister of Canada. Yeah. They don't have presidents.
I just don't give a shit about that guy.
Who cares about Canada?
That's true. They are not a real country. Sorry, guys. Not a real country.
Yeah, no, if we lose Canadian listenership over this, it doesn't matter.
I would feel sad if Geo felt truly offended.
No. I mean, Geo's great. It's just, the rest of them.
Honorary. He's a RNarier of American.
I mean, I think he's dating an American woman, so he's gonna get freedom.
Green card boo. Sounds good. The primary group responsible for conducting Alliance/Northstar operations was Joint Task Force 6, JTF 6, Mobile Task Force. Joint Task Force 6 operatives received training at the U.S. Army Special Operations Command at Fort Bragg, North Carolina, and were subsequently deployed in the domestic field. Of the over 4,000 soldiers involved in JTF 6 in 1992, only a small portion were active duty, including at least 50 members of the Special Forces. While the majority were culled from National Guard units.
I feel like culled isn't the word there.
Culled is a rough, is a rough one for that.
Chosen.
In fact, one of the hand selected. In fact, one of the main administrative functions of JTF 6 was the coordination of National Guard units. Among their duties, operatives provided intelligence analysis, armed reconnaissance, weapons communication, and training to civilian law enforcement agencies, and participated in near real-world tactical exercises. Further, they provided equipment, transportation, reconnaissance, and imagery, and collected other types of intelligence data pertaining to individuals, businesses, and organized crime groups, which are known to be or suspected of engaging in criminal activity.
These guys
Da-
move a lot of fertilizer.
okay. Data that was to be developed and analyzed, known to be or suspected of engaging in criminal activity. Data that was to be developed and analyzed. Stored in DoD collection centers and distributed only to military units. Beyond their supporting role, JTF 6 active and reserve duty soldiers were lent to civilian agencies for direct actions. Long and short term assignments to conduct surveillance and counterintelligence activities within elaborate nationwide sting operations. The role of the National Guard, and if you're listening to this, you're in one right now. The role of the National Guard in the new total integration policy was significant, and Guard troops could perform arrests and needed no warrant to search private property, including homes and automobiles. Which seems not right, right?
No.
That doesn't seem right.
I thought the Constitution protected me against such things.
Yes, well, the Constitution is
Dude, they got
is
all this shit going on, and like things like 9/11 still happen.
right. Yeah. Oh no, because you need a warrant to search planes.
Oh, right. Yeah, no,
Whoops.
they were hiding the
Not
box
homes and
cutters were on the
automobiles.
plane.
Planes. Yeah.
Oops, all planes.
Oops, all planes. In order to pursue the war on drugs, the Clinton administration continued to erode existing posse comitatus restrictions. The war model or military model of crime control led not only to an increased militarization of civilian police, now greatly assisted by the military and operating with a war mentality, but also further use of the military and civilian law enforcement, intelligence, and counterintelligence operations.
I don't
Just
care if that pussy's in a coma.
I'ma
Game's
have it.
game.
Game's game. Any hole's a goal. Justifications in the name of the drug war were somewhat nullified in the minds of some, however, because of previous and more recent revelations of the CIA's and military's role in drug smuggling operations. Yeah.
The FBI fighting the CIA in a war that was made up by the DIA. Or DEA.
DIA? Yeah, DEA.
Well,
yeah.
DIA is Defense Intelligence. That didn't come
that's
until
true.
after
That's
9/11.
true. That's true. As McVeigh guarded Northstar's regional headquarters at Calspan, his other employer at the time, the National Guard, was coordinating with another multi-agency task force as well. This one headed by the FBI, called Patcon, short for Patriot Conspiracy. While McVeigh was
They'll
seemingly
never
aware,
believe this.
people will never believe. Yeah, it's like, Patriot Conspiracy, huh? You
There's
just
a
named it
Patriot conspiracy called Patriot Conspiracy. Yeah, sure.
That's
all right.
that's the name they chose.
All right. Sure.
While
Sure,
McVeigh
Uncle
was
Fred.
seemingly aware that the Northstar existed, although not necessarily under that name, Patcon's existence was unknown to the public until 2007 when it was revealed through a FOIA request, although many details surrounding it remain hidden. It is so weird that sometimes this stuff comes out in a FOIA request, in FOIA discovery. Like, you could just lie to us. You could. It's weird that like the FOIA stuff tends to actually uncover things ever.
I think I mentioned this last time, but do you remember the Will Smith I, Robot movie?
I never saw it, but I'm aware that it happened.
No,
Yeah.
so what's the guy's name? He's like a kind of a famous sort of character actor. Anyway, he plays like the scientist who's murdered, and his hologram is left behind. And if you ask him the correct questions, he'll give you the right information as like sort of a cipher, like as a word cipher, right?
Okay.
And that's what a FOIA request is. They won't tell you anything, but if you ask the right question, if you mention the right thing, they'll tell you everything they have on it. Mostly.
You have to say the exact thing.
I hate being asked 3 questions in a row.
It's a genie wish, right? Yeah. Yeah, and if you misspell something or it's And then they'll tell you, "Oh yeah, sure, we can give you that, but it's going to cost $50,000."
Well, okay, so I don't know how much Coast to Coast AM you've listened to post Art Bell, right?
Virtually none.
Okay, and that's honestly smart. I will say the George Knapp episodes are worth it because he's just entertaining by himself, right?
Okay, yeah,
But George Norrie is just he's the worst, right?
Snorri, yeah.
Yes, there is. So, do you know the Missing 411 books?
Yeah. What's his David Politis?
David Paulides,
Yeah, Politis.
Paulides, right?
He's the politest.
So he apparently put in FOIA requests with the national park systems to try and get the names of missing peoples in certain national parks.
Yeah,
And I think it was
they don't track
Yellowstone.
him.
Yeah, Yellowstone National Park. Apparently, they don't track him, and actually, uh, oh, what's it called? If basically, if he wanted that, he would have had to pay $50,000 for that list that apparently doesn't exist.
Yeah, and it was. I think that what it ended up as as I recall, what ended up being the case is that it was because they had basically bid them calling all of the surrounding police forces and getting the numbers from them, because apparently the way that it works is that there's state and local authority over those
Mhm.
missing persons cases. So you'd be
Right,
talking
right.
to like the highway patrol, and you'd be talking to municipal police where there was, or county sheriffs, or municipal police where municipalities overlap as part of the park. So like if you're um, like there are certain municipal parks even that are part of the National Park Service. So like I think that Ground Zero, like the monument of a lot of major monuments are like that. So like
Mhm.
I think Ground Zero in New York is technically part of the National Park Service. So there are park rangers who are there. If someone goes missing there, not that it's that big, right? But if someone goes missing there, the National Park Service is not investigating that. The people who are investigating that are the NYPD, right?
Right, right. And the thing with that is, no, David Paulides did not explain that on
Right.
his, at all. Actually,
Yeah, I
uh,
mean, he is
he's
I
entertaining.
I have not read the Missing 411
They're
books.
not great. They're not great, Bob. Uh,
Uh
they're
yeah,
they're
they're really expensive and somewhat hard to find, and there are a lot of them, and the fact that there are a lot of them makes me feel that they are, sort of uh cranked out sloppa.
a little bit. So
Yeah.
I was able to request them from my library.
Okay.
Like, so I think they got a couple copies from universities nearby that you could, they have like the lending library thing.
Sure.
And so I read, I think it was like the first one, right? And the reason also he doesn't put his books on Amazon anymore. He makes that explicitly clear on every
He's got a
every
very active YouTube channel.
yeah, every coast to coast episode he's on. He makes it abundantly clear that he does not put his books on Amazon anymore. Uh, and any books that are on Amazon are charged up the wazoo for no reason, but you can buy his books on his website and they're like $20 each.
Oh, really? That's
Yeah.
really funny.
Yep.
Hey, you know what? There's like totally there is 100% a market for buying the books from him on his website and then reselling them on fucking eBay, because they're like $70 a piece on eBay.
Yep. No, you could definitely undercut the market and just sell them at like $50. Also, Thingle, if you don't stop, I'm going to make you an admin of this channel.
Yeah. I mean, you
I
know,
am
go ahead.
going to give you a wrench thingle if you do not stop asking about the mating press.
We will not allow any end towers, but you can try to do a press tower. Just letting just uh yeah, and I mean there are other issues with missing 411. I mean,
Yeah,
I don't
no,
know,
I
maybe we
mean,
could
so one of the funniest things about missing 411 to me is he's been running with this idea that uh for some reason, a lot of scientists of German heritage were missing, and he kept seeing this like come up in his
yeah.
research. So he didn't outright say this, but he heavily implied that secret Nazis from Antarctica are stealing German American scientists to continue their work in Agartha.
Yeah, in the near what
In
is it?
Neuschwabenland.
Yeah, near clusters of granite rock. Yeah, near granite boulder fields. The fuck is a boulder field?
It's a
Like,
field of boulders.
yeah, field. Yep,
Uh,
you see those all over the place, right? You know, people just disappear. You know, one of the boulders rolls aside, and there's a hole straight down to Agartha. Um,
So
that's
so so yeah, that's so if there are if anybody in chat is of German descent and you just want to go hiking by yourself,
watch out for boulder fields.
you too
There are
might get
literally. I am partially of German descent. I am not a scientist, so maybe they don't want me. But I have literally gone hiking in a boulder field, and I'm not even kidding. Like there are photos of me in a boulder field. There was like
you just dress up in a lab coat and just go out into a boulder field like, I hope no one is looking for
I'll have a lab coat and a red
scientists
armband, and I'll
for
just be and I'll
scientists
just
of German descent.
I'll have a big magnifying glass, and I'll be looking closely at the boulders and shouting, "Mein Gott!"
The boulder should not be here.
The boulder! How did it arrive? Boy, I hope nobody takes me to Agatha. That would be really inconvenient. Nobody knows I am here. All right.
Wait a second, that's not a German sign. That's just David Paulides wearing an armband and a lab coat.
I can tell you goddamn Greek. I can tell just by looking at you. The physiognomy is unmistakable. He's got a good YouTube channel. You should check out David Polite.
Yes, friend of the show, David Paulides.
He would disavow us, but it's
he
fine.
He would not.
He probably would, but okay.
I'd disavow us.
I disavow myself. Everything I do. The forerunner of Patcon began during the mid to late 1980s, when local, state, and federal law enforcement agencies became aware of and began investigations into the radical right wing and white power movement, individuals, groups, and organizations. While less sophisticated racists, not us fellas.
No, we're going
true
to
patricians. True patricians. They're hunting for the grugs. While less sophisticated racists engaged in brutal hate crimes against minorities, a faction of more calculating adherents who considered themselves part of an underground war against the system stayed out of sight and employed a variety of guerrilla tactics.
That's where the lizards with tits live.
That's where the lizards with tits live, under the dirt in Agatha. Part of an underground war, tactics including bank robberies, counterfeit operations, weapons trafficking, small-scale bombings. The most notorious of this being the Order. One of the largest, does not elaborate. the one time where she does not elaborate.
Come on, Wendy.
One of the largest organized white supremacist groups in existence at this time was the Aryan Nations. Individuals associated with the Idaho-based Aryan Nations, as well as Aryan Nations leadership, were directly linked to a number of violent criminal plots. Eventually, undercover FBI and ATF agents and the paid and unpaid informants they recruited penetrated most, if not all, known AN chapters and individuals. But while these efforts resulted in some arrests and convictions during the late 1980s, the plots continued. By 1990, undercover federal informants and agents positioned within targeted groups began warning about the ongoing development of violent criminal conspiracies, now involving not only the White Power movement, but also their allies in the burgeoning Patriot movement. Among the activities planned or executed were the theft and black market sale of automatic weapons, law,
9 Ryder
rockets,
trucks were given to the race of white supremacists. 8 Ryder trucks were given to the race of preppers.
but
One,
but
one
all of
Ryder
them were
truck ruled them
deceived.
all.
For another Ryder truck was given. Yes. Night vision goggles, grenades, and other equipment from National Guard armories and other military bases. The FBI continued to gather information about these schemes, and in March 1991, FBI Assistant Director Larry Potts authorized Patcon, a
More
national
like Larry
multi-agency.
Putz.
More like Larry Puds. Hello, Owen Zaleski. I'm
His
sorry. I'm sorry the Discord still sucks. I guarantee you the double dealer Discord sucks even more. And, you know, as a certain Austrian painter said, you should be the change you want to see in the world. You should improve the Discord. Come on out. Come on, chat.
You're doing a very bad New York accent, which reminds me of Curtis Yarvin.
I'm doing a very lazy New Orleans Yat accent, actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So there's a. Have you ever listened to the Tim Dillon podcast?
I have.
So Curtis Yarvin is on an episode.
He is a thick guy.
Yes, he's a big guy. But he has an episode with Curtis Yarvin, and like half the time Curtis is going in and out of the worst fake New York accent you've ever heard.
Amazing.
It's great. I highly recommend it.
Mr. Mackey, if you ever meet Nice Cap, tell him I hate him. I am not Nice Cap.
That's Cap.
That's in this house. We do not say no Cap. We say yes Cap. All right.
Is that why you married an Asian lady? Because they're very pliable and submissive? Yes, Cap.
Actually, she disagrees with me all the time. It's great. I hate being agreed with, to be honest.
Fuck you.
Oh, thank you. See, this is why we work. Because you hate me and disagree.
Mr. Yao Vitor Stein says sometimes he speaks like that on podcasts. I did not know. I guess I haven't listened to enough Curtis Yarvin podcasts. Just that one, really, and it was jarring. But to Tim Dillon's credit, he rolled with that punch really well.
Yeah.
And great episode. Highly recommend. Yeah, no, he was just like, yeah, oh, I'm interviewing a crazy person.
I want to see Curtis Yarvin on Theo Von, because I feel like Yarvin will probably harm himself. Like he will spontaneously combust and take everyone with him.
Yeah, a friend of the show, Theo Von.
Theo Von is God's strongest grug, to be real. To be real with you, you know. I used to think that was Rogan, but it's Theo Von.
I think a lot about his comments when he heard that what is that stupid tree bear that climbs upside down?
The sloth?
No, not a sloth.
Koala bear?
Ears. Yeah, the koala. Somebody told him the koalas had gonorrhea, so he should stay away. And he's like, yeah, well, I got a bunch of stuff too, so they should stay away from me.
That's true. You should probably not fuck a koala bear, though. Like, to be the real takeaway is don't have sex with a koala bear.
And don't lick eucalyptus leaves that you don't know that you didn't pick yourself.
You didn't pick it. Someone might have slipped you a Mickey. Some sort of koala bear. Some sort of sexual assaulty koala bear.
Slipping one a Mickey in this show is just going to a bowling alley.
It's on this show, a Mickey slips you something. Let's see here. By 1990, undercover federal informants and agents positioned within targeted groups began warning about the ongoing development of violent criminal conspiracies, now involving. I already read this. The FBI continued to gather information about these schemes, and in March 1991, FBI Assistant Director Larry Potts authorized Patcon, a national multi agency domestic anti terrorism initiative meant to disrupt these plots and bring criminal charges against the conspirators. In January 1992, a Patcon informant revealed to the FBI the ambitious plans of one of the targeted groups, the Texas Reserve Militia, to ambush a National Guard convoy during an annual training exercise. The TRM, believing that the Guard conducted these simulations with unloaded weapons, planned to intercept the annual exercise and steal the weapons. The FBI passed this information to the Guard and directed field offices to maintain coordination with the DoD. An FBI teletype dated February 4th, 1992, written by A.D. Potts to the commanding general of the Army's Criminal Investigative Division, alerted him to the existence of a number of items stolen from military bases that had been found in locations throughout the country, including gas masks and other assorted items, such as bombs and a number of bomb making components. That really seems like you're burying the lead. After this, the stated justifications and objectives of Patcon shifted, and its allotted budget, manpower, reach, and authorized tactics expanded. Funny how that happens, isn't it? Yeah. Dreaming in the Appalachians. While the extent to which McVeigh had direct or indirect knowledge of ongoing domestic security operations involving his two employers is unknown, within 6 months he would find himself in the middle of Patcon's investigatory hub. Before this, though, shortly after his assignment to Calspan, McVeigh made a series of curious decisions. Herbeck and Michel observed that in late May of 1992, McVeigh ended the one relationship in his life that had given him glory and satisfaction. He resigned from the Army Reserve Unit in Tonawanda 3 months ahead of its deactivation date. He cited employment conflict as his reason for leaving. In addition to his office job as a scheduler at Burns, he often worked long hours of overtime as a guard. Something had to give, and cutting his connection to the United States government seemed like a good place to start. Stickney, in his account, noted that Tim would spend 5 months and a day in the Guard's employ. The Guard may be the only place in his whole life where Tim didn't leave much of an impression. Just about everywhere else he would travel in his entire 27 years, there are people who remember him in some odd way, something he said or did. For some reason, the Guard is the only place where, with a few notable exceptions, he would be remembered pretty much by name, a uniform tag, and a time of employment only. While several men stationed in the same armory could not remember him at all, he left a faint trace of an impression on a few others. A clerk at the NYNG, New York National Guard Armory, reported to the FBI that he first met McVeigh during a 2-day weekend drill, and that McVeigh, man, weird way to meet a guy. Just drill him for a 2-day weekend.
That's just what the National Guard does. They meet up one weekend.
They just drill a guy.
Well, no, it's just called drill. It's like close order drill.
Like that, like rap.
Yes, just like drill.
Okay. McVeigh ended up working in the same office, also as a clerk. A New York National Guard sergeant in charge of the Combat Supply Company told the FBI he had limited contact with McVeigh, but remembered he was part of a 23-man anti-tank missile platoon. National Guard Staff Sergeant Thomas Kazmerzak told the Buffalo News that McVeigh... Kazmerzak? Chak? That's a CH?
Yeah, because it's Czech.
It's
a good thing that I'm here.
I don't know if I'm gonna respect the respect.
Okay, so I want you. So just call it Kazmerak, like Jane Kazmerak, the mother from Malcolm in the Middle.
I also would not have at all remembered that, and in fact, for years, I thought the eldest brother in Malcolm in the Middle was Orlando Bloom.
No, the oldest brother was Not Danny McMaster. It was the other McMaster, because Danny McMaster raped a girl and was on that 70s show.
Yeah, yeah, and he's also a Scientologist, isn't he?
Danny McMasters is. I forget what his brother's name is, but I know that they're brothers. And
Okay.
his last name is McMasters something. I know a lot about Malcolm in the Middle. Do you know what their last name is?
In the Middle.
No, Wilkerson.
Malcolm
Yeah.
Wilkerson.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, I wouldn't have gotten that because I know virtually nothing about it.
Yeah,
Did
I
you
know a
know
lot
the
about.
dad? Did you know the dad was later on another show?
Yeah, no,
On
he was on
some note.
Seinfeld.
Yeah, just Seinfeld. No other shows though.
He also played Dalton Trumbo in the movie Trumbo.
And nothing else.
Nothing else comes to mind.
As I recall, he had a bit part on Better Call Saul.
Yes.
Anyway,
this is the moment that Saul Goodman truly became Heisenberg.
Oh, man, I never finished watching Better Call Saul, but I thought Breaking Bad is. I think Breaking Bad's really overrated.
It's good. I think okay. So the thing about Breaking Bad is it was like the biggest show
At the time.
on also just not a network show. Like it was AMC, you know. So
yeah,
like the
that's right.
fact that it wasn't HBO, so it was still on cable, but it wasn't one of the network dramas like NCIS. It was a secret third thing where it didn't show like tits and it didn't have cursing in it like The Sopranos, but it also didn't have Mariska Hargitay.
I don't know who Mariska Hargitay is.
She is the Mariska Hargitay is the lady from Law and Order SVU.
Oh, okay.
Also, I think her mother was somebody of note. I think her mom is Sally Field. Maybe?
Really? Huh.
No. Maybe Catherine Mansfield. Somebody.
Actually, I mean, I don't know. I could kind of see Sally Field, to be honest.
Maybe.
And you mean the female lead from Law and Order, right? Like
yes.
the
Yes. Her name is Mariska Hargitay.
Okay. The lady, what done all the things?
Yeah. No. And then Ice-T is in there.
Yeah.
And he's
Richard Belzer, a great Richard Belzer wrote a book on conspiracy theories.
He did. He was on. Speaking of Coast to Coast AM, he was on a bunch of times to talk about that book.
Really?
Yeah, in the George Norrie era.
You know what? That may have been the first conspiracy book I ever bought. Like Richard Belzer's book, because I think it came out in like 1996, and it was I was really into 40 in Times at the time, which was a magazine that they carried at Barnes and Noble.
No longer. I checked.
Yeah, I don't think it's printed any longer.
Yeah, it's. I mean, it still exists. It's a website now, I think.
Right.
Cracked.
And rest in peace, Cracked and Mad Magazine.
No, DC Comics still publishes Mad Magazine. You just have to buy it at comic book stores.
Huh. Interesting.
Why do I know so much useless shit? I've wasted my life.
Mad Magazine's kind of a American institution. Sergio Aragones, is that his name? The guy who one of the comic artists.
I actually don't know.
Aragones, I think that's what it is.
Aragonads.
Yeah, lusty Argonian maid. That's the.
The 40 in Times.
But anyways, 40 in Times, and I was looking for a book, an actual book to buy on the topic, and it had like just come out, and it was out on one of the tables, and I was like, oh, okay, cool. A middle schooler will read this book. I had no idea who Richard Belzer was at all, and I've never really been a Law and Order guy, but yeah.
Apparently, he just his whole career was just playing a detective munch in like 50 different shows.
Yeah.
Richard Belzer just showed up one day and we put him on TV and he
never left.
He signed all his checks, Detective Munch.
Yep. And then he stayed on Law and Order until he fucking died. Never left.
R.I.P.
Alrighty.
That guy had
A classic. That guy. A classic.
seriously.
That guy.
You see him on TV and you're like, hey, wait a second. He kind of reminds me of David Lynch in that way. He's got a Lynchian quality to him.
He does. He does. He would have been a good guy to have coffee and cigarettes with.
Yeah. Friend of the show, David Lynch we were talking the other day and he said, I miss Richard Belzer. I wish I put him in Blue Valentine.
How you mean Blue Velvet?
Sure.
Yeah. Anyway,
No.
What?
I meant Blue Valentine.
But David Lynch didn't.
I know.
Okay.
I'm clearly just like my spelling mistakes. I'm choosing to pretend I did it on purpose.
While several men stationed at the fuck, I already read this. Let's see. National Guard Staff Sergeant Thomas Kazmerchak
There we go.
told Buffalo News that McVeigh was always good and punctual and was the leader of an anti-tank missile squad while there. Captain Daniel Crow told the FBI that McVeigh had an attendance problem, and although he had a 2-year commitment to the Guard because of an excess of sergeants there, and based on his combat record, he had received an honorable discharge after 6 months. Characteristically, the reasons McVeigh gave his friends and family for leaving the Guard also varied. To his aunt, he said the unit had been disbanded, and he was being transferred to a mechanized reserve unit operating out of nearby Genesee Valley. One secretary at Calspan and her husband both told the FBI that they had heard McVeigh had been kicked out of the Guard. To friend and co-worker Andrea Augustine, he said he left the National Guard commitment conflicted with his heavy workload at Burns.
You literally just go and hang out with the monkeys at the zoo, Tim.
Yeah. Well, not anymore. Now
he's making schedules and pining after Miss Augustine.
Well, I mean, except this might have been when he was just creeping around the halls at Calspan.
Oh, what you guys doing in here? Is that a lizard with tits?
Again, they're all over the place. It's like
they just hit him with the Men in Black
all possible permutations. A neuralizer.
Yes.
They neuralize him every day. He's starting to develop serious like
how many times have we done neuralized? This?
How many times is this like is this bad for you? Oh no, you can get that up to 5 times in a lifetime without any permanent brain damage.
How come I've got this punch card that says next one's free and it's got 10 on here?
Also, all these itemized charges. Also, I have 3 other cards that have been fully punched. Given the existence of Patcon and Northstar at this time, their objectives in relation to the National Guard, McVeigh's statements to his sister and his first attorneys are curiously noteworthy. As outlined previously, McVeigh told Jennifer that during the sassafras at Fort Bragg, he was informed that his covert assignment entailed acting as a military consultant working hand in hand with civilian police agencies in the U.S. Further, within days of his arrest, he told public defenders Otto and Coyle he was recruited by the government while serving a 4 to 5 month period in the National Guard and tasked with neo-Nazis and other problem troops. Other problem troops.
I can point you out to all of them. I recruited them myself.
Yep. In December,
you just got to ask them if they've read this seminal work, The Turner Diaries.
The Turner Diaries. And if they haven't, you give them a copy and then badger them until they agree it's good. In December 1995, when a Jones team investigator asked McVeigh how long he had been in the National Guard, his job descriptions, and the reasons he left, McVeigh became clearly annoyed. McVeigh said he could not recall his exact job description, but did remember that the unit eventually disbanded. A strange response given his detailed memories of his military career prior to joining the Guard. This is a side effect of the neuralizer. When he demanded to know why the investigator was so interested in his National Guard stint, the investigator told him that Otto and Coyle had informed the Jones team about his earlier claims. McVeigh's severe reaction was noted in an internal defense memo. Mr. McVeigh immediately became angry and yelled out several curse words directed at his first attorney. I immediately asked Mr. McVeigh if there was any truth to those statements, and Mr. McVeigh replied that parts of it were true and other parts were untrue. Although McVeigh soon settled down when the investigator tried to discuss the matter again, he said that it was all pure bullshit and then waved his hands in a gesture to let me know that he no longer wanted to talk about the subject.
Okay, so if I ever get set up for a heinous act, right, and they're gonna
Yep.
ask me what spurned on this heinous act that I didn't commit, I'm of two minds. I can either promote one of my friend's self-published books, like I'll say, "Oh, Nutcracker or Nutcranker by Dan Baltic made me."
How shit would it be if you said Nutcracker? Yep.
Or I'll say something like really pretentious, like, "Ah, yes, if you truly understand In Search of Lost Time by Marcel Proust, then you will know why I have done these terrible acts."
Are you just forcing people to read an incredibly tedious French book?
6
Yes, 6 incredibly
incredibly
tedious
French
French books. Yes. Um, yeah. I mean, that would be funnier. You could even say, if you read
If you read the works of Justin Moan.
if you read the complete works of Justin Moan, you will know why I have done this, and you too will do the same.
If you watch all episodes of the Venture Brothers, including Radiant is the Heart, Radiant is the Blood of the Baboon's Heart, the film, you will know why I have done this.
If you watch all of The Simpsons from the first date of airing to the present, you will
Including
know
all
why
of
I
the
have done
Carol
that.
Burnett
That one's
shorts.
real. Yeah, not Carol Burnett. It was a different chicks show.
No,
yeah.
it's Tracy Ullman. That's
Tracy Ullman. That's right.
damn it, my pop culture brain is failing me.
It's the only one you've got. I actually think that if you did watch all of The Simpsons, you probably would do a terrorism, right? Like
Yeah,
there's no way to
Matt
survive
Groening
that.
shows up to your house and he's like, so you finally understand what I've been trying to get through
You
to people.
understand. Yeah. You could he was trying to defuse the bomb with disenchantment, but nobody fucking watched that show.
Actually, the show was about how Bart Simpson went to the Gulf War and it sucked, man.
So true. Great shirt. Classic shirt.
That shirt, I want that shirt, but like just the way that they misdrew Bart's eyes, I want to correct it before I wear the shirt.
Absolutely not. It's gotta be shitty.
Cross-eyed Bart Simpson going
You gotta
to the
use
Gulf
the
War.
shitty one. Yeah, he's cross-eyed because it sucked. He took a piece of shrapnel to the dome.
He
Fucked up
had
his
way
occipital
too
lobe.
many experimental vaccines.
Yeah. Made him cross-eyed. Although he had earlier told the Jones team about his job at Calspan, that his job at Calspan was easy and demanded practically nothing from him. During a separate interview in September 1995, he said his National Guard obligations were too much for him. I quickly found out I couldn't handle even one weekend a month. It was all fucked up. In yet another conversation, he told them a very different and somewhat strange story about his decision to leave the Guard. During the spring of 1992, he said, he began to feel very frustrated and to channel his anxieties joined a volleyball league, but quit after he almost beat up a line judge. He then joined a floor hockey team, but quit because he was out of shape. On one of his, but then quit because floor hockey is for lesbians. On one of his days off work, he
None
drove
of his
to the
teammates had wives.
Yes, or were wives. Yeah, to the Appalachian Mountains, and when he got there, lay on the ground, fell asleep, and had a very intense dreams for about 30 minutes. Upon waking, he decided to quit the National Guard. A demon told him to quit the National Guard. A Wendigo invaded his spirit and told him to quit the National Guard.
That's not how Wendigos work.
That it's an evil spirit that makes you want to eat people and also quit the National Guard.
But what does it say about Ryder trucks?
In favor of Ryder trucks. Loves Ryder trucks. In fact, the Wendigo was first attracted to him because they also love calculating the volume of fertilizer that a vehicle can contain. So, Put that in your peace pipe and smoke it. Wampum, Hudson.
Where's Mr. Black Cloud when we need him?
Yeah, where is Black Cloud? To the Jones team, this was yet another example of the numerous ever-changing and inconsistent stories McVeigh told about his life prior to the bombing. Still, members of the Jones team wondered if there was any truth to the story he told his sister and public defenders. So they increased their efforts at obtaining complete military records. In the process, they learned of McVeigh's own efforts to do so earlier. In early April 1992, McVeigh requested a complete set of his military records, including, among other things, a list of service-related medals, awards, commendations, and his medical files. Then, on May 1st, 1992, he wrote the letter to the National Guard requesting an early discharge, citing his reason as a recent promotion at my full-time place of employment that conflicted with his National Guard obligations. Attached to McVeigh's letter was one written on his behalf the same day by his supervisor at Burns. To whom it may concern, this communication is being sent to confirm that Timothy J. McVeigh, an employee of Burns International Security, has recently been promoted to a supervisory position. This position requires that he be on call after normal business hours, Monday through Friday, as well as all days and nights on weekends. Should he receive a call, the supervisor must be available to head immediately into work, as such calls are unfortunately all too common in the security industry. The on-call supervisor must handle any problems dealing with sick or absent security officers, as well as problems with our respective clients. Supervisor McVeigh's Army National Guard drills interfere greatly with his ability to perform this specific job. As we understand that Sergeant McVeigh has requested to be, with Sergeant with scare quotes, shitty, McVeigh has requested to be released
his
from
name was Sergeant.
That's his nickname. Yeah, right.
Major.
Has requested to be released from his commitment with the New York Army Reserve National Guard, I guess is
there we go. You got it.
Yarg. We can only hope that you will grant him this reprieve.
Tim, did you type this up yourself?
Yeah.
You're still making $5 an hour.
You're still, yeah. But you just spent one of those hours on the word reprieve. Captain Crow.
You put Sergeant in scare quotes by yourself, Tim.
Why did you scare quote yourself?
You signed this Timothy J. McVeigh and then crossed it out and said, not Timothy J. McVeigh.
Sargy McSarge face. Captain Crow personally reviewed and approved the request on May 1st, 1992. Wrote, I interviewed Sergeant McVeigh, and in doing so, I realized that his civilian promotion to a supervisory position has caused him to work evenings and weekends. Although Sergeant McVeigh is requesting an early discharge, he hoped that he will be able to return and complete his military career. I understand and grant his request and hope that you will do the same. On June 1st, 1992, the New York National Guard granted his request, deactivated him, and reassigned him to the Army Reserve Reinforcement Unit. His obligations to the reserve would end on March 11, 1996, during which time he could be subjected to annual screenings and training and active duty recall at any time. The same day his transfer out of the National Guard was approved, McVeigh received notification that the DoD was in receipt of his records request, but it is unknown what, if any, portions he received.
So it's very possible that on April 19th, 1995, he could have been recalled to the National Guard.
Oh my God. Yeah. Yeah, it could have happened right up to the time. Yeah. Or perhaps he was.
Tim, you're not being executed. Oh, that's good. You're being recalled.
You're being recalled. You're getting deployed, soldier.
To Iraq again, but that's not for 3 more years.
You're gonna be a bulldozer driver. Kill me. Immediately after his National Guard discharge, McVeigh sought employment and took entrance exams with the very agencies whose policies he railed against, agencies connected to both Patcon and Northstar operations. The first was with the Niagara Falls-based Border Patrol, yet after passing the screening test, they informed him that no positions were available. Dicks. Weeks after his arrest, the FBI attempted to locate and interview certain close associates of McVeigh's working the Buffalo area Border Patrol. Next, McVeigh took the exam required for employment with the United States Marshal Service, received one of the highest recorded scores. He did not get the job, however, and later blamed it on reverse discrimination due to affirmative action. Oh
Oh,
my
Tim.
god. It's just regular
I
discrimination.
will say before we get into this next paragraph, the real hero of this book is Steve Hodge.
Oh yeah. Just like
Like,
being a dude.
yeah, just being this guy's friend for way longer than anyone else. Like, nobody would have blamed him if he just like cut off contact with Tim after he got back from Iraq.
Oh, no kidding.
You know, it's like, well, yeah, no, it's like Tim was a great guy before he left, but he just kept having me read these weird books. We just kind of drifted apart. No, he was like he's stuck with Tim through thick and thin.
Yeah. He was just like, yeah, he's my
I
buddy.
can't
Kind
get
of sucks.
friends to get back to me, and this guy is Tim was
Literally will
writing him
leave you on
letters.
red. Steve would not leave you on red.
No,
You know?
he would watch you put the mail in the mailbox, wave to you, and then wait for you to leave so that he
So
could go pick it up and read what you had to say instead of, talking to him.
It's just because because the he wanted you to have the joy of knowing that he was reading your letter, right? It's not about just the conversation. It's about knowing that you're reading the letter. Yeah, exactly.
Sometimes I think that you don't even like my letters. That you're just doing it to humor me, Steve.
Absolutely not. Absolutely
No,
not.
I love your letters. I'm waiting for another letter, Tim.
I look forward to them.
Really?
I hear your boots on the front porch, and I hear my mailbox open. I hear the little donk of the letter hitting the bottom of it, and I think, well, there's
I
Tim.
can't wait to hear about what
Timmy.
that bitch at work Andrea did again.
Yeah, I hope she sees this, bro. I hope she sees this. Why don't you tell her how you feel, Tim?
No, you gotta write it in the letter, Steve.
You gotta no, we're doing a thing. We're gonna be pen pals. It's like, how about you be my pen pal and I just talk to you?
Tim, listen, I got us a couple of cans and a string, so we don't have to write letters anymore.
we have phones, Tim. We have phones.
The government can track me on the phone, and by writing you letters and not putting postage on them. I wonder, is that a crime?
What? Yeah, technically you're not allowed to put anything in a mailbox if you're not a letter carrier. But it's also like my fucking mailbox, so
No, actually, it is the federal government. It says on most mailboxes, property of the U.S. mail.
Well, I bought that shit. I bought my mailbox and screwed it into the side of my house. And so, yeah, it's my fucking mailbox, no matter what the
that's true,
federales
Woodpit.
say.
He did ask for pictures of his underage sister.
What?
Yeah, no, Tim asked his sister for pictures.
Oh, right. Yeah. Well,
Jennifer never had a chance. Stop calling her Jennifer the Whore. She's Jennifer the Horror Show.
Hey man, you can't say Jennifer the Horror Show without saying Jennifer the Whore. You just can't.
You just say Jennifer the Whore, and I'll finish.
She had some fucking DSLs, man. You got to find a picture of her. You got to throw it up there. You got to throw a picture of Jennifer up there, just so people can tell what we're talking about here. She's got like that really.
Jamie, pull that up.
She's got that real. She's got that real like mid '90s sort of hoe vibe. Like I feel like you could probably the Zoomers can probably get that again, right? Because Zoomer women are into the '90s fashion. So,
yeah, no, she's a real heroin chick.
Heroin chic?
No, I know.
And not like the Iron Sheik, like CHIC.
Where is? I just had the picture, and now I'm. This is annoying.
All right.
I don't like the internet.
The whole internet is the problem.
Yeah, the whole internet is a big problem.
Woodpit baggy jeans are coming back. Yeah, man. I think Jinkos are like really expensive secondhand. You probably get like authentic Jinkos off of eBay that are like $500 a fucking pair.
All
But
right,
to be
here we
fair,
go.
like, denim's fucking expensive. This is a really bad photo. You pick the worst possible
It's the
photo.
one I could find, dude.
She looks like Richard Belzer in this one. Like,
No, what does she look like? No, there's that one comedian who is friends with Larry David.
I don't know. Richard Belzer?
No,
Probably.
it was Richard something else though.
Aoadi. All right. Well,
Anyway,
back to the book. You ruined it.
that's all right. We'll always have Mrs. McVeigh.
Oh, God. Oh, EL. She looks like a Chud Jack.
She does.
She really did look like a Chud Jack. Oh, man.
He looked like Tim McVeigh, but with longer hair.
Perhaps they were the same person. Anyway, she could lose a few.
No, she could not.
She could not have. No, it would not have gone well for her. Yeah.
I don't think anorexia was like a thing yet.
It was definitely a thing. Anorexia
No, but I don't think it was like
thing. It was considered just good common sense. All right. A Marinoid. Steve Hodge said that after returning home, McVeigh's personality quirks became increasingly drastic to the point that he felt he no longer recognized his childhood friend. His rhetoric had now moved beyond talk of the right to bear arms, and during their infrequent conversations, McVeigh inevitably began railing about secret conspiracies involving factions of the government who wanted to gain world domination, as well as the government's plans to set up concentration camps for U.S. citizens.
Frame of camps.
McVeigh's ideas did not originate in a vacuum. Rumors among militia and patriot circles about secret concentration camps had circulated for years. Ironically, despite McVeigh's anxieties about these hypothetical camps, he seemed to feel no compunction about sharing his growing library of racist, hate-mongering literature with coworkers. Yeah, his OPSEC was dog shit. It's amazingly bad.
Maybe the real rider truck was the friends we made along the way.
Yes. Oh my God. Let's see. LeBron recalled how their conversations quickly turned from innocuous talk of UFOs and other fun conspiracy theories highlighted later within this chapter. Yes, thank you. Thank you, Wendy. That's going to be next week, though.
Yeah.
To much more serious and troubling topics. McVeigh, he said, was consumed by reactionary, no government ideas, and began bringing in not just news clippings of political scandals, but KKK newspapers or other magazines like The White Patriot that had pictures of guys in sheets, and
this was not a Bed Bath and Beyond article or what do they call those?
Catalog?
That's the word.
That's
I know Richard Belzer, but I don't know the word catalog.
The word catalog, right?
That's a special kind of retardation.
He brought the White Patriot one day and was showing it around the whole while the guard shack was full of people. After the bombing, another one of the guards gave it to the FBI. One time there was an article in the Spotlight denying the Holocaust, and we talked about that. So I guess I'd say there was a slight disconnect from historical reality. McVeigh definitely had a more aggressive stance on racial issues. I felt like he was sharing the spotlight and that type of literature because he was looking to recruit people either into an organization or into his ultimate goal, which was, became apparent later.
Known for other work.
Known for his other work. Oh, man. The White Street Journal.
So I know that LeBron is probably the guy's last name, and he's probably like a French Canadian white guy who lived in Buffalo. But reading this, it really makes me think that LeBron James worked with Timothy McVeigh, and that's just more fun for me. So I'm going to go with it.
Yeah, I agree. Bill McVeigh recalled that during this time, his son was rarely home. That during this time, his son was
you,
rarely
I'm a married man, happily.
During this time, his son was rarely home, but when he was, all he would do is watch the news shows and talk about the government. McVeigh explained to his attorneys that among his complaints at this time were ongoing U.S. foreign actions he viewed as attempts to bully other countries into compliance, and the government's attempts to control U.S. citizens, mainly through incrementally restrictive gun laws. Further, he was becoming even angrier about the growing militarization of domestic police forces and their increasing cooperation with U.S. troops.
You can take that off the screen now, Cap.
Well, I was waiting until the end of the paragraph.
Mm-hmm.
He was joined in his last complaint by a disparate coalition of activists and civil libertarians on the right and left. Yeah, I mean, none of that should be terribly controversial. None of those were controversial stances, right?
Not even 5 years ago was that controversial. Well, maybe 5 years ago.
Right. Although the issue attracted much controversy, advocates argued it was necessary to help combat organized crime, stop domestic terrorism threats, and aid in hostage situations. This came to a head in Ruby Ridge, Idaho on August 21st, 1992, after a joint ATF FBI action adopting military tactics and, with the help of Joint Task Force 6, utilizing military equipment and personnel, turned deadly and drew attention to the very thing McVeigh was fretting over.
What is that? Why does that sound so familiar? Ruby Ridge.
Ruby Ridge. Is that where the grapefruits come from? Nope. That's Ruby Red. Ruby Rod. Was that a character in The Fifth Element? Was that Chris Tucker? Maybe we'll learn more about this Ruby Ridge thing that seems to be on the.
Are you sure that's not a lady?
Ruby Ridge.
Maybe that's where Jack Ruby was from.
Oh yeah. Oh, it was that one song, Goodbye Ruby Tuesday. And then Ruby Tuesday also, wait, no, I'm thinking of Red Robin. They have the bottomless they're the fast casual restaurant with bottomless steak fries. Anyway, let's talk about the Weavers.
I've never been to a Golden Corral.
I've never been to a Golden Corral. Let's talk about the Weaver family. In 1987, a highly paid undercover ATF confidential informant whose real name was Kenneth Faderly, but who called himself Gus Magisano, began frequenting Aryan Nations headquarters.
They'll never guess that
his fucking cover was
Pierre
that he was a
Delecto.
med. Yeah, his cover was that he was a med. Wow. Began frequenting Aryan Nations headquarters in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho.
Coeur d'Alene. Yep, it's apparently very nice and
heart of something, whatever Elaine is. While his main
of whiteness.
That would be Argent, I believe. Blanc, Coeur de Blanc. That's what it would be.
Woodpit. You went to a funeral reception at a Golden Corral a few months ago. Oh my god, really? That's the trashiest thing I've ever heard.
Everyone, yes. Sorry for your loss. Sorry for the entire day, in fact.
That's got to be the worst day.
Yeah, that's terrible. Talk about insult to injury, right?
Yeah, well, he didn't. Why even have a repose dinner after if you're going to go to Golden Corral?
Right, exactly. It's like, yeah. Anyway, very sad. So sad. Let's see. All right. While his main targets were high-ranking Aryan Nations members and associates, including Aryan Nations founder Richard Butler, Gus would need to turn, rank, and file AN attendees in order to get dirt on his real targets. In an effort to appear as the real deal, Gus made numerous pronouncements about his intent to engage in criminal activities to further the AN cause. That does not work. Fed posting will not get you there, bud. One of the people he met was Randy Weaver. Actually, Fed posting totally works. You should do
Yeah,
it.
no, yeah.
If you're an undercover informant, you should Fed post constantly.
I was
It will
in a
super
group
work.
chat recently, and a Fed was outed, or at least he was an informant or something, and yeah, much hilarity.
It was like,
Mr. Ham in chat knows what I'm talking about.
hey fellas, who wants to
do some crime?
Oh boy, I can't wait to do terrorism. Sounds really fun. Anyone up to any terrorism in the near future?
I'm not doing anything. If you guys wanted to invite me to some acts,
To some terrorisms. What
oh,
are,
oh,
what are your
how much
plans for
fertilizer
New
can fit
Year's?
in your house?
What's your plans for New Year's? Do you have a car that has full self-driving? You have an oversized, unwieldy handgun?
You guys
Yeah.
ever been to Fort Bragg?
You guys ever served at Fort Bragg? You got a good car insurance to rent a vehicle?
Do you guys know what Toro is?
Oh boy. Let's see.
I hope we get more. I hope by next week we know more about that, because that just freaks me out.
For sure. One of the people he met was Randy Weaver, who, while not a card-carrying member of the Aryan nations, held similar views, lived off the grid in nearby Ruby Ridge, Idaho, with his wife and 4 children. And he was an occasional visitor there for 2 years from 1987.
He literally went to like 3 barbecues.
He went to like 3 barbecues because virtually all of the men in the area were members or were in the orbit.
That was the Elks Club.
Yeah, that was the
Or
Elks
the
Club.
Elks Lodge or whatever.
Yeah. And also he was doing unlicensed gunsmithing. So because he was living off the grid, he kind of just needed to network with people in order to get these odd jobs.
He was really libertarian that way.
I mean, he ultimately, yes, that is really Randy Weaver's main political.
His main crime was being a libertarian.
Yes. I mean, but that is descriptive.
Now I have no sympathy for him.
Now you're like, I'm so glad that the same sniper was at his house as was later at Waco. We'll talk about him.
His name was Timothy McVeigh.
No, it was
some Japanese guy.
Luo. No, it was. Yeah, I think he was ethnically Chinese.
Oh,
I don't know. We'll I'm sure we'll get into it.
I did want to ask if
this is fucking hilarious.
Yeah, no, that's really good.
Sure.
Well done, Charles Sisson.
Yes.
I did want to ask, did you ever find a copy of the Randy Quaid Ruby Ridge movie?
Oh, I didn't. It does exist.
We got to do that for Dive
Time.
All right, we got to do that for Drive Time movie night.
Did you just have a stroke?
Yep.
Dive Time.
Dive Time.
Yeah. I have not. I think it might be a mini series if I recall correctly. I'll look it up. But we can do that if I can find an online copy. The DVDs are like not actually expensive. They're like $20. So
and the drinking game will be drink every time you remember this is the movie right after Randy Quaid made Independence Day.
Oh yeah, it was like the one immediately after. Hold on. Randy Quaid, actor Randy Quaid, and it was called. It wasn't called. Was it not called Ruby Ridge?
No, it was called something. It was called the name of the girl's memoir or something. Because it was the daughter's memoir.
The Siege at Ruby Ridge.
Oh, yeah. That was it. And then it was like something on your knees or something like that.
Yeah. Miniseries dramatization of the controversial 1992. Oh yeah, it's a miniseries. Is it a miniseries? Oh yeah, 3 hours. Oh, that's long as shit. So that's like 3 episodes.
That's like 1 episode of the Library of Mass Destruction.
It is. That's true. Yeah, we can totally watch that. Let's see here. I do have a copy of Randy Weaver's memoir, signed by Randy Weaver.
That's awesome.
which is a thing that he did, and it is signed to my real name. It is not. It's like
To Cap,
dear
keep
Cap's
fighting.
dear Cap's real name. All my best, Randy Weaver, and I did not get it from Randy Weaver. I never met Randy Weaver. I just kept my I just like looked on eBay until I found one
And
because
it
he
just happened to have your name.
no, it's that Randy Weaver would sell this book directly to people at gun shows after he was exonerated and won his case against the federal government. He would travel around and he would sign every single one. And so he would always inscribe them to people. So they're all signed to someone. So as long as your name isn't, Vivek or something, uh, one probably exists.
To Vivek Ramaswamy.
Yeah,
You
exactly.
have
So
to go back.
you have to
Randy
go back,
Weaver.
Randy Weaver. Yeah. So if you just watch for them consistently, you will eventually find one.
So
But they're not cheap. They're not cheap, obviously.
guys, you hear that? Cap has a very generic name. So add that to your info
Add that to your
docs.
docs. Add that to your docs folder. Is he a Danny? Is he a Timmy? Is he a Jamie? Is he a Jimmy? Who knows?
Jamie's a
knows?
girl name, you idiot.
What?
Jamie's a girl name, you idiot.
No, it's just another nickname for James. Although I did give 2 nicknames for James. So anyway,
Woozle, it's a wazzle.
a wazoo. All right. He was an occasional visitor for 2 years from 1987 until late 1989. Gus incessantly attempted to persuade Weaver to sell him illegal weapons. Weaver continued to rebuff Gus, but eventually, suffering financial difficulties, finally agreed to sell him 2 sawed-off shotguns for $300. Good fucking deal.
Guys, if somebody asks you to sell them illegal guns, do not do it.
Yeah, go ahead and sell them legal guns and
Yes.
and sell them a saw, you know?
Yep. Your Honor, I did not know what he was going to do with that saw and those legal
Is it illegal
guns.
for me to sell a saw? Is it illegal for me to sell a gun? No.
I saw this one video clip. It was I think it was like some libertarian, whatever, right? And it was a guy at a gun shop, and he's like, "Oh, I'd like to see that Glock on the wall over there." And it had an underbarrel rail, right? So it had an underbarrel rail.
Picatinny rail, yeah.
Yeah. So he picks up the gun. And he's like, "Oh, I just wanted to test out this thing I 3D printed at home, and it's a forward
a forward grip."
Yeah, it's a forward grip that he puts on the pistol, and the guy at the gun shop was like, "What the hell are you doing?" And he's like, "Oh, I just wanted to test this out." He's like, "Well, you just made an illegal gun, and I'm not touching that anymore, and I'm calling the police."
Yeah. Yeah, you just made a short-barreled rifle or whatever, or what the fuck ever. Or is that an any other weapon? Is that what that is? If you put a foregrip on a pistol?
I have no idea what it's classified. It might be classified as it's probably classified as a short-barreled rifle.
I bet it's any other weapon. That's the you typically have to have a stock. Yeah. But any other weapon is the same thing as like a you make
a pipe bomb.
Yeah, well, that's destructive device. Anyway, they're all weird and stupid categories. So
anyway, don't do that at home, folks.
Yeah.
Or in a gun shop, and certainly don't sell illegal guns to people begging you to sell them illegal guns.
Right.
Or anyone.
This gave the ATF leverage against Weaver, and they approached him with a deal. They would not file criminal charges against him if he agreed to become an informant and spy on Aryan nations. Much to their surprise, Weaver refused, and the ATF filed criminal charges against him in June 1990, falsely describing Weaver as a bank robber and convict in their report. In December 1990, a federal grand jury indicted Weaver for the possession, not sale, of illegal weapons, after which he was arrested, given a summons to appear in court, and released. The date listed on the summons, however, was March 20th, 1991, instead of the actual court date, February 19th.
How do you fuck that up?
When Weaver failed to show up for the February 19th court date, understandably, as he thought it was scheduled for March, a warrant was issued for his arrest. Weaver refused to turn himself into authorities and instead, now a federal fugitive, chose to remain on his remote property with his family for the next 16 months. His cabin was placed under intensive surveillance by federal authorities. Enter 21-year-old John Bangerter, a leader of the Army of Israel, a group of racist skinheads in Las Vegas and Utah, and ranking member of and national spokesperson for the Aryan nations. Bangerter was related to Randy Weaver through marriage and best friends with Weaver's nephew. They had met several times at the Aryan Nations headquarters in Idaho, where Bangerter acted as head of security for their meetings and festivals. Bangerter himself had been unsuccessfully targeted in a number of undercover operations and was present when Weaver met Gus. Bangerter, who in later years disavowed and publicly renounced his racial ideologies, recalled the atmosphere at Aryan Nations events prior to Weaver's arrest. It was well known that at any Aryan Nation event, in a crowd of 300 people, there would be at least 30 undercover federal agents in attendance to monitor us, and another third of the crowd were informants. Another handful were sent by watchdog groups such as the Southern Poverty Law Center to infiltrate us. It was rampant, just like cops at a Grateful Dead show trying to sell people LSD.
Is there anybody here who's not a federal informant?
Hands up. None. Let's see. It was rampant, just like cops at Grateful Dead trying to sell people LSD. It was just a big mess. We were young kids, fresh at Aryan Nations. We were instructed by the head of security there not to engage in crimes or even talk about illegal actions, to document everything you did that way. If somebody does try to frame you or implicate you in a crime, you have your story straight and will be protected by your alibi. Ironically, it turned out later that the head of security at Aryan Nations himself, the guy who taught us this stuff, had himself been an informant. In time, I rose through the ranks at Aryan Nations and became one of the primary people responsible for implementing security measures there. And I took this job to heart. We weren't so much trying to prevent the anti-Klan protesters from getting in the compound or the SPLC's subversions and attempts to get information. My instructions, directly handed down from Richard Butler, were to monitor Richard Belzer were to monitor events at Aryan Nations, spot, weed out, and warn other attendants about suspected or confirmed federal agents, informants, and provocateurs, and prevent them from getting caught up in the sting operations the ATF and FBI were conducting. We quickly came to learn firsthand the tactics used in a sting operation. It was always the same thing. They would come up to you and say, "Oh, shit. I got it." Well, I read it. It's in the book. Come on. Talk about automatic weapons and suggest you join them in criminal actions, sometimes violent criminal actions, like leveling a courthouse or killing a federal judge. We knew those kinds of conversations were entrapment and conspiracy. And we would tell people, if someone comes up to you and starts talking like that, please don't engage with them in conversation. If they brought up automatic weapons or if they wanted us to mess around with explosives or commit any crimes that would result in a prison sentence, they were probably federal agents, informants, or operatives of some sort and working against us. It was a dead giveaway.
Guys, just don't commit crime.
That's just not how we talked. That's how they thought we talked. That's how they wanted us to talk. And that's how Gus talked. And I just knew in my gut he was ATF when I met him. And he just kept saying things that in my mind confirmed my suspicions. I tried to warn Randy about Gus, but he wouldn't listen. He didn't want to believe me. On August 5th, 1992, the FBI approved the continuation and expansion of its Patcon program. On August 21st, 1992, the U.S. Marshals surveilling Weaver's property threw rocks at his cabin in an attempt to determine how the Weaver's dogs would respond. When the dogs began barking, Randy's 14-year-old son Sammy and Kevin Harris, a family friend, came outside to see why. The marshals, from a hidden position in the surrounding woods, then shot and killed Sammy's dog, prompting Sammy to fire a warning shot, after which he began running back towards the cabin. As he did, one of the marshals shot him in the back, killing him instantly. Harris and the marshals then engaged in a firefight, during which U.S. Marshal William Deegan was killed. At the start of the 12-day standoff that ensued, the marshals were joined by hundreds of local police, agents from the ATF, FBI, U.S. Marshals, U.S. Border Patrol, for some fucking reason, and troops from the FBI's hostage rescue team, for some fucking reason, and the National Guard, until eventually 400 armed federal agents surrounded the Weaver cabin, occupied now by 3 surviving children, 10 months to 14 years old, Weaver and Harris, and Randy's wife, Vicky. In what already seemed like overkill, Joint Task Force 6 was called in to provide agents with supplies and conduct reconnaissance flights over the property using military helicopters. In the meantime, hundreds of protesters from both the left and the right of the political spectrum arrived at Ruby Ridge, getting as close to the scene as they could. Among them were undercover Patcon operatives, as well as some of the most well-known patriot and white power movement activists, including Johnny Bangerter, who recounted, in summer of 1992, while Randy Weaver and his family were under siege by the federal government, I went up to Ruby Ridge. I saw what happened there firsthand. Many things that never even get talked about, that never got reported in the media. It is still difficult for me to think and talk about the things I saw and experienced there. The first thing I noticed when I got there was the massive military presence and hundreds of federal agents. At some point, ATF agents had thrown gunny sacks filled with phosphorus in the creek so that if someone tried to cross over it, it would light up and alert the agents. A man, one of the
I'm
protesters...
pretty sure that's a war crime.
It is a war crime. In fact, at some point, let's see. At one of the protesters who's come there to support Weaver took his dog to the creek so that it could drink some water. The ATF pointed their guns at him and ordered him to get back. The man explained that he was just trying to give his dog some water, and they started laughing and said, "Oh, okay, go ahead then." So the dog drank from the creek, and the ATF agents burst out laughing even harder. We couldn't figure out what they were laughing about. I was watching the entire thing. That entire night, the dog threw up blood, and by the next morning, the dog was dead. Well, as strange as it sounds, the day after they put the phosphorus in the creek, everything in the creek was dead. You would never have known how many fish were in that creek until you saw them all floating up at the top. Every one of them dead. They were washing up to the shore a mile downstream. There were farm animals that drank from the water as well, and they died too.
God, that pisses me off so much.
Yeah. Randy Weaver's nephew, John Reynolds, who was also my brother-in-law, was there with us. We had just found out that Sammy Weaver was dead. There was a news crew filming that we started talking to the agents standing around nearby. The 10-year-old boy was standing not too far from us, and I asked the agents how they could kill a kid, how they could do something like that. And in response, the ATF agent with a beard and a cowboy hat lowered his rifle and aimed it at the boy as if to say, "Like this, that's how." I couldn't believe it. For the first time, I realized there are people who could perform a Miley massacre without thinking, and then say they were just following orders. Well, I saw it firsthand at Ruby Ridge. Before that, I did not know the kind of evil people are capable of. But there at Ruby Ridge, I saw it face to face. What I met up there, what I saw in the faces of those federal agents was evil, and it only got worse. Yeah.
That's worse than the Basra Highway.
Well, there were kids at the Basra Highway, but it is
not to think about that.
Yeah. It is it is probably worse. It is probably worse than the Basra Highway, because you're specifically targeting someone rather than raining hellfire on them from an A10. You know what I mean? Like you're specifically shooting a kid who is fleeing. So
you just don't lead them so much.
How do you do it? Yeah, you just don't lead them so much. Ruby Ridge. Also, to be clear to everyone, this is like 100%. Like the government was 100% in the wrong. They lost the court cases. Like
they definitely did, and they really tried to stack the court against Mr. Weaver.
Yeah, they really tried. They fucking failed. It was an absolute shit show. It is amazing that Janet Reno lived out her days without going to fucking prison, because ultimately, like, this was all kind of on her.
I'm pretty sure she's safely in hell now, though.
Oh, 1,000% safely in hell. Yeah. But the Ruby Ridge Ruby Ridge ought to be something that is talked about more. It's
More
like
and,
something that
and
ought to
not
be
just
taught
by
in
right
grade
wing
school.
schizos.
Yeah, something that ought to be talked about in grade school. Because if
Yeah.
you're talking about the, the left talks about defunding police, right?
Yeah, there's a defund the police primary example right there.
Yeah, but no one talks about it because it's a white family. So, um, yeah. Bangerter told reporters that the federal officers present at Ruby Ridge, as well as the federal government, would be held responsible for allowing Sammy Weaver to be mercilessly killed in cold blood, and warned there would be a second revolution in America, and it could be bloody.
Do you want to stop it right there, Cap? Or how much longer?
Yeah, that's a good spot. We can cut her here because next week we'll be able to continue on with this.
In
And then
Maranoid, which I think is like the biggest, probably the longest section of the
this
book,
is
right?
the largest single section. Yeah. And I mean, we're also going to get into, I'm pretty sure that we get into Waco as well.
Mm-hmm.
So
He was
we
on the
get,
ground at Waco selling bumper stickers.
yep. So yeah, next week you'll hear about more war crimes. Yeah, same sniper.
Exact
At
same
both.
sniper.
Same fucking guy.
Wasn't even a rooftop Korean, but could have
Nope.
been.
Yeah, Lon Horiuchi. That is who it was.
Lon Horiuchi, that's right.
Yeah, Lon Horiuchi.
I'm
Yep.
telling you, he was Japanese, not Chinese.
Still alive, by the way.
Yeah, he teaches classes on hostage negotiation.
Known for Ruby Ridge, Waco. Holy shit. Yeah.
I was
Anyway.
American Sniper before Chris Kyle. Thank you.
So true. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, I mean that is the Timothy McVeigh's career at Calspan. His yet another weird dovetail.
Yeah, a lot of
with the Joint Task Force 6 and
a lot of setup this week.
Yeah, a lot of setup.
I think next week we're gonna get a little bit more payoff and evidence.
Next week is gonna be the rest of
more setup.
It's gonna be the rest of Ruby Ridge, and then it's gonna be the beginning of Waco.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
So even more setup, but some fun digressions by Miss Painting PhD.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I wouldn't. Yeah, you wouldn't necessarily. I mean, I guess you could call it a. I guess you could call it a digression, but it was according to McVeigh the inciting incident. And in fact, even if it is, even if this is guilty agent, right? Even if the story is guilty agent, this is the inciting incident.
Mm-hmm.
No matter what scenario, no matter what scenario you believe about the Oklahoma City bombing, it really does kind of come down as a consequence of Ruby Ridge, because it's either the government attempting to claim the moral high ground and reclaim the mandate to do what they're doing, or it's revenge, right? It's striking back. So
we will now accept your money in the form of super chats.
Yeah, well, I mean, we'll do that at any time, but we don't currently have any, so we don't really need to chill to wait for the soups. Although we do appreciate all of them.
Yes, every single one, and we appreciate you, dear listeners. Make sure to send this to your friends, but not in a "hey, let me sell you a sawed-off shotgun" kind of way.
If someone asks to buy a non-conforming firearm from
He's not your friend.
They're not your friend. And what you should do instead of selling them a non-conforming firearm is you should send them a link to the Library of Mass Destruction, episode 12, where we tell them to fuck their own face right off. Yes. No, sir. No, sir. We have none for sale. We have a no banana here. So
We're good
in any
boys,
case,
never done nothing wrong.
we will see you all next week. Same.
No requited. Stop it.
Same.
If you keep doing that, I will give you a wrench.
Same Tookie's time. Same Tookie's channel. We'll see you next week for Library of Mass Destruction.
Bye-bye.
We will not walk in fear one of another. We will not be driven by fear into an age of unreason if we dig deep in our history and our doctrine, and remember that we are not descended from fearful men, not from men who feared to write, to associate, to speak, and to defend the causes that were for the moment unpopular. We must not confuse dissent with disloyalty. Good night.